A nationwide manhunt is underway for a terror suspect who has escaped from prison.
Good morning, it's 6 o'clock on Thursday, the 7th of September. This is Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn, Holmes and Ellie Costello. Leading the news this morning.
Well, there is a hunt on for a terror suspect and former British Army soldier, Daniel Khalife, who escaped from Wandsworth prison yesterday. GB News Home Affairs and Security Editor Mark White is at the scene for us. Mark, good morning.
Well, this was an audacious escape. Daniel Khalife clinging to a delivery truck as it left Wandsworth jail, passing through the main gate right under the noses of prison staff. Today, there is a nationwide hunt to find this terror suspect.
New research shows 2 in 5 voters think childcare will be a key issue in the next general election. What does that mean for the government? We'll be putting that to spokespeople.
Prince Harry is back in the UK to present an award for a charity that he's patron of. But the million-dollar question, where is Meghan? We have the latest on the Duke and Duchess.
Carlos Alcaraz has defeated Alexander Zverev in the quarterfinals of the US Tennis Open. Can he go all the way? Paul Coit with the latest sports news.
Yes, he can go all the way is the answer. I don't want to over-dramatise it, but Alexander Zverev said yesterday that it's so hot at Flushing Meadows, it could actually cause a player to die. That's how hot it is. Also, the Ballon d'Or nominations are out and the Rugby World Cup begins tomorrow.
Did you feel like dying last night when you were in bed?
You know what? It's funny you should say that. I think Zverev has had it easy. It was very, very hot, much hotter. Yeah, I felt the same way.
OK.
That's why I look so rough today, just so you know.
I think, Ellie, it's going to get hotter. And it's going to be very, very nice. Very nice, Aidan McGivern.
It's another hot one today and tomorrow and Saturday. How high will the temperatures go and will there be a thundery breakdown at any point? I'll have the full forecast coming up soon.
So this story, this prison break, it's our top story this morning on this Thursday morning, and it's a nationwide manhunt continuing for a man who's a former soldier, suspected of terror offences. He escaped from prison yesterday. Yes,
Daniel Abed Khalife broke out of Her Majesty's Wandsworth prison in south-west London by clinging onto a food delivery van whilst wearing a chef's uniform.
Now, he was awaiting trial in relation to terrorism and Official Secrets Act offences while working at an RAF base.
Well, our Home and Security Editor, Mark White, joins us live from the scene of the escape. And Mark, it's something out of Hollywood, it would seem.
Yes, indeed. And I mean, as you speak, a food delivery truck, it may indeed be the same kind of truck that arrived just about this time yesterday morning, has just arrived here at Wandsworth Prison before, of course, at some point going through that main gate at the prison. And as I say, it was certainly an audacious escape. We still have to get word from the investigators as to whether this was an opportunist moment for this terror suspect, just seizing his chance to get under this vehicle and cling to the underside of this truck as it left the prison, or whether it was perhaps more organised. Now, if it was more organised in nature, then that has obviously got ramifications in terms of how difficult it might be for the police and security services to try to locate this young terrorist prisoner. It is now 22 hours since he left under that food delivery truck, and still as yet no sign of him. The initial search was concentrated around Kingston in southwest London, which isn't that far really from Wandsworth in southwest London. There are some family connections to that area, but he does also have connections up in Manchester and family in Wales, we believe, as well. So that's why this is a nationwide hunt now, and all of the ports and airports have enhanced security and sadly long queues because of those extra security checks, ensuring that this terrorist suspect does not leave the country.
And the thing is, Mark, I mean, he hasn't even gone to trial yet. We hear Terror and Official Secrets Act offences, but obviously a man who's desperate to escape even before he gets to trial. Is there any more detail on the charges that are being levelled against him?
Yeah, he's facing 3 charges, Eamonn. The first charges relate to the planting of hoax bomb devices at a military base up in the northwest of England. The second charge is the attempt to elicit information that could be passed on to terror suspects, kind of information that would be useful to terrorists. And the third is an offence under the Official Secrets Act of gathering information that could be of use to hostile state actors. And you're right, he's due to stand trial in November of this year. And when I spoke to the Metropolitan Police Commander in charge of counter-terrorism policing yesterday, Dominic Murphy, I asked him specifically, whether this man was dangerous. They have assessed the threat that he poses to the public as low level. But, I put it to him, given that, 1, he's a terror suspect, 2, he's clearly driven and determined to get out of jail and therefore not to be caught. By the very nature of that, he has got to be a threat. Well, all that the commander says was that, he is urging the public not to approach this young man. If they see him, they should dial 999 immediately.
Mark White, thank you so much for giving us that update there this morning at Her Majesty's Prison in Wandsworth. Well, let's speak now to former Metropolitan Police Detective Peter Blexley. Good morning to you, Peter. Very good to see you this morning. Now, you are on the television show Hunted, which is about people going on the run and you're trying to find them. So you will know all about this. What will the police be doing now to find this fugitive?
Well, yes, that was an entertainment show, but I also have the capture of some pretty notorious fugitives on my CV from when I was a detective as well. Yes, there's going to be 2 specific ways of looking at this. Has Daniel Khalif gone on the run on his own, or is he supported by a network of people? And there'll be quite a different approach, because if he was an opportunist and he clung to this van on the spur of the moment and he's on his own with no pre-planning, no resources and living on his wits, then I would suggest he'll be far easier to find, because he would, for example, quite possibly be scavenging in bins for food. He might be shoplifting in order to get a change of clothing and the like, all of which sort of behaviour would bring him to people's attention. If, however, this is pre-planned and he is supported by a network of fellow-minded criminals, then of course he could have cash, shelter, change of clothing, false passport, any number of things, and he may already have left the country. Let's hope that is not the case. This really is the interview I didn't want to give this morning, because I was hoping to wake up first thing and see that he'd been captured. Alas, he hasn't, and I'm sure the police have been working full tilt all night in an effort to find him.
It has to have been pre-planned, Peter. I'm looking at the van. You and me, if we wanted to escape somewhere, we wouldn't know what the underside of a particular vehicle would be like, or how you could attach yourself with belts or straps to the underside, what distance there would be between the undercarriage of the van and the road, for instance, what struts would be available to tie yourself to. So it just has this sense that they've been surveying vehicles, they knew what time they would arrive, they would know when he had the opportunity to do all of this thing, and then that strikes me that he must have somewhere to go.
Yes, and I fully understand your point of view, Eamonn, and the points you make are, of course, extremely apt and relevant. However, desperate people do desperate things. We will have to wait and see. There might possibly be another press conference from the police today, but if there isn't, I wouldn't take that as being that they're clueless and they've got no idea, because it might well be that they've obtained some intelligence and they know a lot more than we do, and consequently, they've got a lot of work to do in trying to find him. It will be very interesting to see how it plays out this morning. I personally am hoping that he hasn't fallen into the clutches of a very well-organised terrorist network, because if he has, and he's been spirited out of the country already, then I think that would make the possibility of locating and getting this man in front of a court for his trial in November pretty remote. But we will have to just sit tight and wait and see, with, of course, the reminder that if anybody sees 6'2", slim-built man with short brown hair who is Mr. Khalif, then the police urge you to call 999. Do not approach this man.
And what do you make of the sense, Peter Blexley, the fact that we're in hour 22 of this prison escape? How likely do you think it is that the police can now find Mr. Khalif? And what do you make as well of the prison's decision to go public with this, to put this to the public? It did take quite a few hours yesterday before that happened, but would that suggest that intelligence or what they had in the first place had run dry?
The prison service and the police have a duty of care to the public to make them know if prisoners escape and to warn them about the possibility that they might have the unfortunate experience of bumping into them. So they acted properly. As for the timescale, we'll have to wait and see whether there was any delay, but I'm sure the police took a measured decision in terms of when to release the information and what information to tell us about. It was pretty exhaustive, pretty thorough yesterday. We had details of his clothing. We knew that he was wearing a chef's uniform, distinctive red and white checkered trousers. I suspect they've long since disappeared, and he's sourced a change of clothing. Once again, did he potentially shoplift that change of clothing, or was it already waiting for him and supplied to him by a terrorist criminal network?
OK. Peter, thank you. Thank you very much indeed for your take on all of those things. Maybe we'll talk later again in the programme. Thank you for setting the scene. Very interesting when you think about that. You know, unless you have someone waiting for you, you would have no money, no IDs, no driving licence, no passport, no access to somewhere to go to, seek refuge with, whatever. So his chances would be pretty limited unless there is someone there waiting for him. Do you know what? You look at this lad and he's still a child. He's 21 years of age, but obviously very determined not to face trial. And there was those, as Mark White was telling us, very serious charges that he's facing. Very, very serious. But you're right, there was some form of planning, wasn't there? Because you have to cling to the bottom of that undercarriage of that catering truck. That requires straps, doesn't it? Some of the papers suggesting that those are homemade. Yeah. And the disguise, I mean, chef's uniform, it's quite sophisticated if you think of it like that. I would have got under the vehicle, held on to the struts, and then fallen off 10 yards later, all to no avail. I wouldn't have the strength to hold myself up, I don't think. Well, exactly. We'd be used to it, you'd be rubbing against the ground or something, you know? You know what I mean? Yeah, well, it's brave. It's very rare, very, very rare for prison breaks to happen at all. I think. But as you said, this sounds like if this happened in a movie... It's Hollywood. It's something out of Hollywood. And maybe I've seen too many Hollywood films or watched too much Netflix. But you would say it's highly unlikely they would do that. But he's done it. He's done it. Happened. Right. Let us know what you make of that, because it's blown our brains this morning, hasn't it? It's our lead story today, and with the time now at 14 minutes past 6, we'll talk about a new survey which has revealed that childcare and early education reform could be a potential vote winner for the next generation, as nearly half say this will be a key issue in their decision on who to back at the next election. Yes, and almost 2/3 of voters said they believe good early years education will benefit the whole country. Well, joining us now is Acting Director at the Early Education and Childcare Coalition, Sarah Ronan. Good morning to you, Sarah. Very good to see you this morning. I mean, perhaps not a surprise when you look at the cost of childcare now. We are in a cost of living crisis, that this is going to be a huge issue for people at the next general election.
Absolutely. We know that this year, the average cost of a full-time place for a 2-year-old in England is £14,000 a year. Now, that is more than some people, or as much as some people's mortgage. And I think what's interesting about our research is that this was a key priority, not just for parents, but also for voters who don't yet have children. Actually, where across the board it was 42% in support of wanting to see childcare reform a key issue in the election. That rose to 59% among people wanting to have children, because they're surveying the landscape at the moment and they're seeing housing costs, costs of groceries, and the cost of having a child is just completely out of reach. It makes everything completely out of reach. But this is also a key election issue for grandparents. And I think that's really interesting too, because we're seeing that grandparents are looking at their own children and seeing that they're not getting the chances in life that they had, that they're having to work, fight tooth and nail just to keep their heads above water and meet the essentials. So across the board, it's looking like this is going to be important for everyone.
It's really quite complex, this whole thing. You're talking about grandparents, and I'm surprised. I'm surprised listening, and you're talking about the opportunities that grandparents had. I would have thought in many ways, grandparents would have had it tougher than today's present generation. And this is what I'm just sort of asking you to explain how life has changed. Because let's go back to people who are grandparents and whatever. They didn't have all this childcare. When did childcare suddenly become an issue? When women moved out of the home to work in the workplace, and then the whole social demographic thing changes and people's roles change. Just explain to us a bit of that history and why we're at where we're at. Because my point being, in the 1950s, the 1960s, or the 1970s, people had family to rely on. And I'm sensing from your accent you're Irish, yeah?
I am.
You are indeed. And you know the power of community and family and how they played a role in all that. People emigrate, they leave Ireland, they come to London, they've no family support around them, whatever. And really what I'm trying to say is, how different is it from the 60s and the 70s to today?
So there's two things to that. One is just the cost of living over decades anyway. You need two incomes to survive. So it's very much a practical thing that both parents in households where there are two parents have to just go out to work, really. There's no choice to it. And that raises a separate question, actually, around single parent households who really do struggle more than anyone else with the cost of childcare. But also the way in which we work and live has changed as travel has become easier, as job opportunities and the economy is spread outside of London. People move away more for job opportunities. So we don't have that sense of kind of filial piety maybe that we had in those times. And we don't have those connections and support systems. But also as well, you know, people are working longer. So perhaps where grandparents retired a little bit earlier, they're also having to work longer as well. And there is a generation of people that, you know, often referred to as the sandwich generation. They're helping to look after their grandchildren, but they're perhaps also caring for elderly relatives as well, because we're all living longer.
Washed from both ends, yeah.
Multiple. Absolutely. So grandparents, that sandwich generation, as we call them, in late 50s, 60s, find themselves often reducing their own hours to be able to pick up the slack in our current care system, whether that's adult social care,
Sarah,
or whether it's childcare.
Here's the controversial bit.
Everyone is feeling it.
Here's the controversial bit. There will be some people listening to us or watching us who will say, well, it's simple. If you can't afford to have children, don't have them. Now, you know, a lot of people may not want to hear that, but I think there'll be a lot of people saying that's what they did.
I'm sorry, I've lost the sound there, Eamonn.
I'm saying that. a lot of people may be saying, can you hear me? Yeah? No? Have you still lost the sound? Oh,
Looks
anyway.
as though we might have lost Sarah there.
Sarah Ronan, very interesting person.
You're right,
there.
though. That's the first thing that people will write in and say.
Yeah. They will, but people
Can't
have
afford
had to
them,
face
have
that
them.
choice. And whereas I think today people see it as their right to have children. And I think if you go back to the 60s and 70s, a lot of people would say, can we afford children? But as Sarah was explaining very well there, times have changed so much. What is expected of people? You need two people working to bring a wage in to pay for horrendous rents and interest rates on mortgages and goodness knows what. But folks, we'd like to know your view. Do get in touch with us, gbviews@gbnews.com, and we'll discuss that throughout the programme this morning. Sorry, you were going to say?
I think I disagree with you. Yeah. I've got friends. I've got friends a little bit older now who are just saying they can't afford to have children. They'd love to have family, can't afford it. Alongside rent or mortgages, it's not an option for them. And I also know people who can only have one. They're saying, well, if putting one in childcare and it's £14,000 a year, you can only have one. It's the cost of a private school.
So what was I saying that you disagree with?
So you were saying some people feel like it's their right to have children, and you know.
Oh, I do think some people feel it's their right. Oh, I don't. It's my right. I'll have 7 children if I want, or whatever.
Yeah.
But well, it's all very interesting. It's all down to personal choice or personal circumstances. And as Ellie was saying, maybe some people just can't have children or can't have too many of them. 6:21 is the time. Let's bring you up to date with the rest of the stories.
And the US has announced it will send depleted uranium tank shells to Ukraine as part of a more than £800 million aid package. Russia has condemned the move to equip tanks with the controversial armour-piercing munitions.
The list of schools affected by the concrete crisis has been published. 147 listed. That number is expected to rise as assessments continue. So far, 19 have had to delay the start of term. 4 have gone fully remote and 20 are running what is termed hybrid schooling.
Network Rail is due in court over a train crash which claimed 3 lives in 2020. The train driver, the conductor and passenger died in the derailment near Stonehaven in Aberdeenshire. The case will be heard at the High Court in Aberdeen on Wednesday.
People in Britain are amongst the least likely to view work as very important in their life. According to World Values Survey, the British public will now, more so now than 40 years ago, will say that placing less importance on work is a good thing. Not if you're an employer, I suggest. You see, you can't have it both ways, can you? You can't sort of say, work's not important to me. But work is important to you because without work, you don't earn money. And without money, you can't achieve a lot of your dreams. And I am very envious of people who are really happy, really happy. Do you ever come across somebody that's, you know, just happy with their lot? They mightn't have the best car. They mightn't have any car. They mightn't have the best house, whatever. But they are really happy.
Yeah. But you know what? It's often the people that don't have any of those things. We notice that.
Yeah.
People who lead a simpler life, I think, often are the happiest.
Are you simple?
No, I'm very high maintenance. I wish I was a bit more simple. What about you?
Well, I have these values now that I didn't have, obviously, when I was 30 or 40, whatever, and it was all about accumulating things.
Yeah.
And then you get to my age now, 47, and you just think it's just stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's just full of just stuff. It's things.
And things don't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have an awful lot of football memorabilia.
Oh, do you? Wow, that doesn't surprise me, yeah.
My wife calls it rubbish, you know, or junk and things. But maybe it is. You know, maybe I should auction it off.
Maybe and then you could make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And you're an entrepreneur.
I mean, yeah, you change
Very
that.
good.
But there's a lot of stuff you don't need anymore, or stuff which was important to you at a certain time in your life, but not now.
Yeah. But I think it comes back to, doesn't it, that what actually matters is family.
Health.
Mm-hmm. And that's probably about it.
Yeah.
Isn't that it?
I think
Am I missing anything?
I think health is very, very important. And family and friends, laughter, music.
Oh, it's going to make me cry.
Here's a wee thing that we've got, a bucket list. It's a travel bucket list, and there are 20, and I realise I've done 7 of the 20.
Oh, well, that's very good. Oh, you did a tick.
Yeah,
you ticked them off.
A tick there.
Very good.
Britons, their dream destinations are to see the Northern Lights in Iceland. I would like to see that.
Yeah, that's on my list. Maybe we should go together.
Yeah, you've never seen?
Never seen them.
Neither have I.
I've been to Iceland. They weren't there.
I've been to Niagara Falls. Very, very impressive. Very good.
Maldives, I understand that, yeah. A water bungalow in the Maldives, that would be nice. Amalfi Coast in Italy. Haven't done that either. You need to go on a road trip, Eamonn.
I have done the Colosseum in Rome, which was very good because I did a lot of studying on that when I was at school. That was good.
Yeah.
Times Square, New York. I don't think it's that impressive.
Safari in Kenya. Have you done that? You've ticked that. Was that good?
Yeah, to see the big five, the animals and things.
That's my next big.
That was very good. A lot of people are quite frightened about that. They don't like that.
I'd love
Helicopter, Grand Canyon. Yeah.
It's a good list. It's a very good list.
Strip in Las Vegas. Yeah, it's very, very good.
We'll share that list with you. We're going to get it graphicised up for you. But you're 20...
Graphicised?
I don't know if that's a word, but I'm going to use it. 20 dream destinations for Brits. Eamonn's ticking through that list pretty quickly over there. Do let us know
20.
What's on your bucket list. Where do you want to go in the world? Or what's the most amazing place you've ever been to? GBViews at GBNews.
I think I'd like to go to the Rio Carnival.
Oh, that would be fun. Actually, my sister went there and got mugged.
No, yeah. All right, let's not
Lost
do
everything.
that one.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe I could just go somewhere where they have the dancing girls and not the carnival.
Maybe stick to the Blue Lagoon in Iceland or Northern Lights.
Maybe you're right.
Yeah.
Aidan McGivern, come in with the weather forecast.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. It's Aidan McGivern here from the Met Office with the GB News forecast. After a warm night, it's a hot and sunny one once again for most of us. Some clouds in the sky, however, as we start things off, especially these North Sea coasts once again. Now, that cloud will burn back to the beaches through the morning, but there's also some cloud associated with thundery showers moving up north across western parts of the UK. These will be hit and miss through the day. Chance of frequent lightning where these occur and big drops of rainfall, but away from any showers, although there'll be some medium and high-level cloud. For many, it's another warm or hot one today with temperatures of 32 Celsius in London, 28 Celsius for northern Scotland. But across Scotland and Northern Ireland, the chance into the evening of further thundery showers before they clear away. And that low cloud returns to North Sea beaches overnights and edges inland as the night goes on. But clear spells for many, and it's another warm one, 19, 20 Celsius in places, mid to high teens across northern parts of the UK, 20 or 21 Celsius in the south. As we begin Friday, some patchy cloud around, some low cloud around some of these southwestern shores, as well as the North Sea coast. But otherwise, for many, it's sunny skies, and we'll see a chance of temperatures ending up even higher, 32, and as we go into Saturday, 33 Celsius possible.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Carlos Alcaraz has won Wimbledon. What about the US Open? Can he win that? Paul Coit will be looking into his magic ball with the sport next.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamonn.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m. Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Still to come on our little programme this morning. What have we got, Ellie?
Everywhere you look, ultra-processed food. But how dangerous is it really? And can we cut it out?
Well, it is dangerous. It's all muck. Well, that broccoli's
quite yummy,
not.
though.
That's not ultra-processed. It has to be fresh. And there's that caveman diet, isn't it? If it wasn't, it didn't exist in prehistoric times. So meat and fruit and veg and all that sort of thing, then you shouldn't be eating it. But this really concerns me, not because I'm good as gold or I watch what I eat, whatever, that we're being fed stuff that is poisonous to us. Well, it's just not, it's poisonous.
Yeah.
And governments don't tell you about it. 7:20, hundreds of academics are calling for 100% plant-based meals at the universities around the country. So, is this a needed intervention? Or are vegans getting too big for their boots? We will debate all this.
Well, you can get in touch all the usual ways this morning. You can email us, gbviews@gbnews.com, or you can tweet us at gbnews.
Back pages, let's see what we've got there. Rugby, of course, the Rugby World Cup begins this weekend, and there is the Express. Rugby on red alert. The World Cup needs to be a watershed for the sport to prevent brain injuries impacting players in later life, says the Express. So serious thing that. We could be heroes, says Gareth Southgate. The Mirror reports the England football coach is telling his players they will win next summer's Euros, which are being held in Germany. Anthony, the Anthony claims are taken seriously by Manchester United, says the Metro, and United. The winger faces domestic abuse allegations. The club refusing to say if still available for team selection or not. Paul Coyte. And we're going to start with football. Yeah. And we're going to talk about the Ballon d'Or.
The Ballon d'Or, which is the greatest footballing award that anybody can win.
So what is that? What does balloon mean?
Well, it's ball.
Oh, yeah, so it's golden ball.
It's French. It's door. Well, ballon is of the... It's the ball of the door. Is what it is. It's the door ball. it's just.
Is it not gold? Does that not mean
gold? Is not door, is it? That's not right.
So the ballon.
So the ballon is the ball.
Probably look that up. Yeah.
Ellie, can you help here?
Yeah, I'll have a look.
Can we have a ruling on this, please? The Ballon d'Or.
What does it mean? How does it translate? Anyway, so
it's the ball.
The golden ball. You're right, Eamonn.
So here's the golden ball.
It's the golden ball.
Wrong?
I know.
When am I ever wrong?
What? Who am I to doubt you?
Who are you?
The great Eamonn Holmes.
I know.
That will teach you.
Oh,
right. So
I know.
Amongst
Humbled again.
Amongst British winners, who have we got?
Right. So British winners in the past. We go right back to 1956, the first ever Ballon d'Or. I don't know if they called it the Ballon d'Or.
John Charles?
No.
No.
Who would it be? The earliest, the greatest winger.
Winger?
Yeah.
Stanley Matthews.
Correct. Look at this guy.
Yes.
So Stanley Matthews.
Yeah.
First winner in 1956. Dennis Law, I mean, I could go through, but I just threw some years at you and you were bang, 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 weren't you? So 64.
United had it, Man United did very, very well with that.
Very well. And these players that have played for Manchester United, some, I don't know where they were at the time. So Dennis Law was 64. Was he in Italy at the time?
I think you're... No, do you know where I think he was? He couldn't have been at Huddersfield, could he?
You wouldn't win the Ballon d'Or
no,
for Huddersfield.
Huddersfield.
You know, with respect to Huddersfield... And the winner it's a player from Huddersfield. I don't think it's going to happen. So, Dennis Law,
But
64.
Bobby Charlton won it.
66,
Georgie,
of course, World Cup. Yeah.
won it as well.
And George Best, 68, European Cup winner at the time for Manchester. Although Dennis Law was injured then, wasn't he? Couldn't play in the final of 68.
Yes, he wasn't in the final,
against Benfica. Kevin Keegan, 78 and 79.
Wow,
So playing at Liverpool. And then
wow.
he was at Hamburg. And Michael Owen, 2001, the last British winner.
Amazing.
So you've got Messi is in. He is in the shortlist. Benzema, who won it last year, who's also in the shortlist. No Cristiano Ronaldo this year, because obviously he's playing in Saudi Arabia, but he is no longer on that shortlist. And British, there's Jude Bellingham, who's tearing up in Spain at the moment.
Yeah.
Harry Kane, we know the Harry Kane's now over in Germany. And the only British-based British player is Bukayo Saka for Arsenal, who's also nominated as well.
Gosh, good luck to them. Good luck to all of them.
By the way, you know there's the goalkeeper award as well. I don't know if you've ever seen this. They did that in the World Cup. Whenever anybody wins...
Are they like the Golden Gloves?
It's the goal. It's like
What is that? What is that in Spanish or French?
Golden Glove in French.
Yes.
Stay tuned.
The gauntlet d'or. But your thing is, I don't know about you, but whenever I see the Golden Glove Awards, it's never
Gant
quite...
d'Or.
It is?
Gant d'Or.
There we are.
The Gant d'Or.
That's why Gant is named after the glove. So
Oh, yeah, very good.
Lev, it's named after Lev Yashin, the Yashin Award, who is, of course, the legendary Russian goalkeeper, always called the greatest goalkeeper of all time. And I was looking at Aston Villa's Twitter account, and they were saying, because Emi Martinez, their goalkeeper, is nominated for the Yashin Award, and people are spelling... Look, have a look at that. Congratulations. It's for the Yashin Trophy. And I don't think there's any respect to Lev Yashin. They have no idea who it's actually named after. So Lev Yashin, which was Yashin, the great Russian goal, the Yashin Award. So no, it's Lev Yashin. So I don't think Lev is getting the credit that he deserves.
Can we talk about the oval ball now? Because I think over the weekend, a lot of us who may not be totally aficionados of rugby or whatever it is, you become gripped. You watch this and what goes on. And certainly I'm really looking forward personally to all the Irish games.
In with a great chance of winning.
Great chance of winning it all. What have you got to say about the rugby tournament?
Well, only England are the only team from the Northern Hemisphere to win the World Cup. Did you know that?
No, I
that was
didn't
back
know
in,
that,
So
no.
20 years ago. It begins tomorrow. So
I remember that day so well.
Yeah, that early morning and the
morning.
Johnny Wilkinson, that amazing drop kick right at the end. But France versus New Zealand. France, I think, they're on home territory. For me, they're the team to beat. I think they're going to win it. They're playing New Zealand. England playing Argentina. See, there's a lot of talk around England at the moment. The fact that it's not looking good. I've had bad results and lost to Fiji. Now to Steve Borthwick, it doesn't seem to be working. The players are saying, just give us time. We're going to be ready. They're very much underdogs in this.
Would you watch rugby? Will you watch rugby?
Yeah,
World
I
Cup?
quite enjoy the rugby, actually.
Will you be Ireland? You'll be supporting Ireland, will you, I
enjoy
guess?
it.
Is that right?
Ireland, yeah. In our house.
Yeah, look at her. She's decked out in green.
No, is that right for the Rugby World Cup? And also, what you were talking about the high tackles as well, because
Well,
there
look,
are changing the
when
rules.
you come back the next time, keep your powder dry.
Oh, really?
We've got 3 slots for you.
Should we do the high tackle?
We could. No,
We could give it a go?
I think rugby is a brave sport.
Especially the way they're built these days. Why it's so dangerous? Because
Make cauliflower ears.
Exactly.
It's very distressing.
I always, my teacher said to me, Eamonn, rugby's not for you. And I said, why, sir? And he said, you're too good looking.
Is that right?
You don't need to destroy that nose or those ears or
Footballer.
anything else like that. Yeah. I'd say, wasn't worth the risk.
It's funny they said it opposite to me, only because I'm built like a brick house. They thought because I'm so powerful, but I said, you know what? No, I'm a footballing man.
Goodbye. See you in an hour's time. Thank you very much indeed.
Now, are your gadgets spying on you in your own home?
I don't like that if they are.
No, neither do I. It scares me. We dive into that story and more in today's papers with Claire Muldoon and Freddie Gray. That's next.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the live desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton, for 2 hours packed full of unfiltered opinions, unique takes and fiery debates. I guarantee you blockbuster guests and exclusive reporting with no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I think there is a culture of collusion, quite frankly.
And no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Just before the break, we were talking about gadgets spying in your home. It makes the front page of the Times today, and we're going to go through the newspapers now in the company of Freddie Gray. Good morning, Freddie.
Good morning.
And Claire Muldoon. And Claire, this has caught your eye. Warning, the latest gadgets are spying on you in the home. Now, we sort of know this, but we don't know it. And I now get really sensitive about
Paranoid
this.
even.
Huh?
Paranoid even.
Well, you say the stupidest things. I'd say things like, my knee's very sore and, you know, whatever.
Does Alexa answer you?
No, but a day later I suddenly get adverts for knee braces and whatever, you know. And it's just the strangest things that pop up.
How many of us here have actually got smartphones or Alexas or these devices in the home
Who hasn't got them?
I've always been strongly opposed to them, and yet we have 2 in our house. We have one the boys are in one room and the girl is in another room, the daughter's in the other room, and they have one in both just because it's just very easy.
Yeah.
With like bedtime, you know, books and stuff.
So anyway, this story has came out now, and I think we've all got them in our homes. But the thing is, we've got Ring doorbells, some people have now. Yes. Your appliances can be worked remotely via Wi-Fi. I mean, it's, you know, quite terrestrial stuff. So warning, your latest gadgets are spying on you on the home, and they're absorbing this information. I wonder how many smartphones or smart devices we've actually set off by saying, Alexa, Alexa, Alexa now. And everyone will be saying, gosh, you know, get onto GB News or whatever, or what's the temperature today? We use them almost like we used to use Google in a conversation. It's stripping everything away, I think, and it does make people paranoid, and they do absorb too much information, and the regurgitation and the algorithm from that information gathered is frightening.
It's so sophisticated now, isn't it?
Well, and everybody knows that on their phones, if you just talk about a subject, then you're going to be served with ads for that thing, whatever you're talking about, whether it's kind of a bread maker. I had that with a bread maker recently, even though we've got one, because my son got given one for Christmas. But talking about a bread maker, and I definitely didn't type in bread maker to my phone, but of course I was then served with bread maker ads. Happens all the time.
But what are we to do?
What about the words that it's not absorbing? Like, it's like, you know, it takes 100 words that you have said, that then it decides bread maker. Why doesn't it decide, you know, some of the other things that you're talking about as well? And you worry about the information stored up on it.
Well, that's the other thing, because the companies themselves have been urged by consumer publications like Which to tell these providers, to tell the owners, don't keep the data, don't store the data, because there is this issue of horizon planning of a artificially intelligenced collected data. Where is that stored?
There is the EU Digital Act that's coming in. We're not going to be part of it, but that is, I think, very odd response, which is that I think big tech companies are going to have to share this might not apply to appliances, but they're going to have to share the information they gather with each other. And so that will just create a bigger network of
it
data
sort of
for
strikes
everyone.
me, it's like organ donation. You should either have to opt
in or opt out.
you know, and it shouldn't be, you know, the set to thing that they listen to you and that's okay. It should be, do you want listened to? And is that okay?
Or do you just switch it off at the mains? Because I only use my Alexa for music if I'm cooking in the kitchen. And then I just switch it off because I really don't like this collection of data, and it's very, very subversive, I think.
You don't know where it's going, do you? I mean, the rule should be that they only collect data on what they need for that service that they are offering. But it seems to be that they just collect this data and it can go anywhere.
Yeah, I feel sorry for the Alexa in my daughter's room. I don't know what that has to listen to.
I'd be more concerned about the one in your son's room, Freddie.
But also, Freddie, it's interesting when I think, you know, in my education, my you know, starting out as a journalist, whatever, it was books. I mean, goodness me, I don't know how we would deal without this this artificial intelligence or whatever it is. That, you know, who is the manager of the England Rugby World Cup team? Boom, in a second.
Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, Ballon d'Or, whatever. Whereas before, I'd have to phone somebody to ask that or get a book to do that. So I can see the benefits for our jobs, but people probably just don't use books anymore. You said about your kids and the way you neglected them as a parent. Not really.
And it's getting worse.
Give it to a machine. You get the machine here, read them a story and put them asleep.
The machine doesn't neglect the child. The machine's very attentive. No, I think, well, we used to say that, you know, the ability to know has been replaced by the ability to find out. And now you don't really even need the ability to find out because you'll have a machine that can do that for you.
But, you know, I mean, today I was looking on Google, my name came up with a lot of things, and like the Daily Mail online, and everything is wrong. Everything is made up or written by some sort of moron who didn't understand what you were talking about in the first place, this clickbait type thing that they do.
Well, I'm obsessed with the fact that AI gets stuff so wrong, amazingly wrong. I rather lazily, probably shouldn't admit to this on air, I rather lazily used it to find some quotes. I said, because I knew there was a quote about something, and it told me, it said Winston Churchill said this in 1941. Anyway, and so I put it down, and then I said, where did he say it? And he said, oh, he said it in Parliament or whatever, something like that. And I said, can you send me a link? And it said, I'm sorry, actually, on Ray Records, I don't have any record of Winston Churchill saying that. And what I found odd about that is it doubled down on the lie. And apparently, I asked some people who know about AI, apparently they call this a hallucination.
That's really frightening, actually. It really is. I remember the days of having to go to, like, the library to go to an encyclopedia or have a thesaurus in the house if I was doing a comprehension. Anything, but it actually extended everything. It extended the time made to do it, which actually was a good thing because now there's, you know, you can get anything on your phone, you can find out anything, but then there's the source of it that appears to be the issue, and that's quite important.
And that's why we think it's more human than ever, because it's talking rubbish.
Yeah, Freddie, let's take a look at the Mail, shall we? Something totally different this morning.
Oh, yes.
Eamonn and I like the look of this. It's the ultimate travel bucket list.
So there are places on this list. I've done 7 out of the 20. Was that quite
He's ticked them off.
Yeah. Have you...
I think I've only done 3.
Yeah.
No, 4. Sorry, 4 I've done.
OK, would you care to name them?
Let's name them, sorry. Well, first of all, I want to say that I'm very struck that the 2 of the top 3 Brits' dream destinations are in Iceland. I never would have thought that.
Right.
Yeah.
But the ones I've done are... I've done the Amalfi Coast in Italy, I've done Rome, I have been to Paris. I've been up the Eiffel Tower.
You've island hopped as well, I'm sure.
In
Greece.
I don't know about hopping. I've been to Ireland.
Well,
yeah.
that's a tick.
OK, all right. All right, I'll do that one. But no, I've never seen Niagara Falls, and I've never been to Iceland.
Where would you like to go?
I'm quite tempted by the cherry blossom in Japan, which is number 7.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Claire, what about you?
Well, I'm actually going on holiday next in a week on Monday, actually, with my mother. I'm going to Alaska.
Are you?
Yes.
That'll
We've
be
discussed this
incredible.
before. I know, I can't wait.
So it's a cruise.
Yeah.
You'll see icebergs. Have you ever seen an
Hopefully
iceberg before?
Hit one.
What?
Hopefully we won't hit it.
Well, It's amazing. It's one of those things in the world you think, wow, that is an iceberg. And the thing that will strike you is two things that strike you about an iceberg.
Hopefully not it.
No, not it. The colour, which is a sort of strange sort of blue colour when the ice breaks off, and the sound of ice breaking off, which is quite frightening.
Really?
Because it's breaking off all the time, and it's scary.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's
Got all that to
amazing.
look forward to.
I know.
And the best-
And my mother. Yeah.
The best news is you won't have to go anywhere this weekend because it's going to be an absolute scorcher.
We've got the rugby starting as well, haven't we?
You're going to miss all of these things, are you?
Well, no, because they'll still have things there that I can do, watch. I'll have my smartphone with me.
It's the summer we didn't get.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're all back at work, but...
Well, some kids aren't back at school because of the racks.
No, that's a whole other question. Guys, come back and we'll talk about those next time round. That's Freddie Gray and Claire Muldoon. See you in 40 minutes.
Now, Prince Harry will today present the Well Child Award for Inspirational Child and deliver a speech as patron of the charity for seriously ill children.
He's attended these awards on 11 previous occasions, and he'll spend time with each winner and their families at a reception. But many people are asking, where's Meghan? Who's asking? Are we asking where Meghan is? I'm not asking where Meghan is. No, don't care. Actually, Kinsey Schofield. Don't care where she is. She's at a Beyonce concert, isn't she? She's been twice to see Beyonce in a few days.
Yeah, she's somewhere twerking, Eamonn. We don't know where she's twerking, but she's somewhere twerking. The Daily Mail's actually reporting that there's been an update to the website, and they're not necessarily sure that Meghan will be at Invictus Games, which she was originally scheduled to be at. So, yeah, where is Meghan, I guess, is what some people are asking. Obviously, Well Child, very important charity to Prince Harry. He's been involved in it for the past 15 years. The Daily Beast here in the States, they're reporting that the Prince and Princess of Wales are not thrilled that Harry could distract from their official assignments tomorrow in regards to remembering the Queen, and that there will not be any come to Jesus or any sort of reunion, despite the fact that we're also looking at Prince Harry's birthday next week, Eamonn.
Remind me now, why are William and Kate annoyed about... What is this, the anniversary of the Queen's death, or what is this?
Yes, sir. We do expect to see William and Catherine be the front and center for the anniversary of the Queen's death. And the Daily Beast here in the States reporting that friends of William and Catherine have said that they're not thrilled that Harry might make some sort of comment remembering the Queen at the Well Child event today that might distract from their official assignments.
OK, but I'll say this about Harry. This sort of thing, Well Child, he does very, very well.
I agree. This is clearly something he's very passionate about, because at this point in time, he's acting as a private individual. This isn't, he's not there as an official royal or a patron, as an official royal patron. So he is doing good. We have to give him credit here. And the idea of him spending time with these winners, getting to know them and hearing their stories, it makes us remember and love the old Harry, who we all fell in love with, years ago.
And what do you make, Kinsey, of the state of the marriage between the Sussexes? Because we've heard rumours, haven't we, in the recent weeks that they've been leading separate lives, and this would feed into that. Obviously, Harry going to Well Child alone in London, but then we see the very loved-up display at the Beyonce concert this week.
I mean, I do think that a lot of those rumors are circulating because they clearly are going in separate directions professionally. We are seeing Meghan completely embrace Hollywood, hanging out with the Kardashians, Kerry Washington. She wants to jump back into the saddle where she knows she can dominate, whereas Harry is very charity focused, very charity driven. Even with Heart of Invictus, we're seeing that. So I do think that some of those rumors are, generated by the fact that we're seeing them part ways professionally. I do agree that perhaps it could transition, that maybe that could negatively affect their personal relationship, but you're absolutely right. There was some snuggles and some hugs at the Beyonce concert. There's no doubt about that.
And do you think that was genuine, Kinsey, or do you think that was put on for the concert, or because they knew they were being looked at by other people at the concert?
I think that's a really good question. One of my friends shot the video, so I know that he wasn't a plant. I know that he was sincerely just curious and taking some cell phone footage. But I do think she loves Beyonce, so maybe she was just feeling herself, Ellie. Maybe she was just vibing.
Well, she definitely was by the looks of those videos. But it was very interesting to see after the rumours about how they haven't been getting along. Did you see those videos of them dancing together?
No, I saw them not getting on. I saw pictures that they were distant and he had his hands in his pockets or whatever. And then he was at a football match something the next day. And he was all very happy and animated. And then she was with a number of people. I don't know who they were. Somebody from... I don't know, 2 other girls, the front pages of the papers yesterday, there were 3 of them there, and she was back saying more about Beyonce. So I didn't see those, but...
So what did you make of it then, Kinsey? There's mixed messaging coming out of that concert.
I think that the ultimate objective with the concert was to shut down the narrative that Harry and Meghan are being rejected by Hollywood, because those rumors have been circulating quite aggressively, and that stops you from getting jobs here. So I do think that what they were trying to do was say, hey, look, we're friends with Beyonce, we're friends with Kelly, we're friends with, Kerry Washington. Here are the Kardashians standing next to us. I don't know if it was as much to shut down the marriage rumors as it was to say, look, we have friends in LA. Those rumors about the Beckhams, let it go.
Kinsey, I've got to shut you down. We're hitting a hard break. Always lovely to talk to you, Toodle Pip.
I love the way she just goes, yeah, bye. OK, here's your weather forecast with Aidan McGee.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. It's Aidan McGibbon here from the Met Office with the GB News forecast. After a warm night, it's a hot and sunny one once again for most of us. Some clouds in the sky, however, as we start things off, especially these North Sea coasts once again. Now, that cloud will burn back to the beaches through the morning, but there's also some cloud associated with thundery showers moving up north across western parts of the UK. These will be hit and miss through the day. Chance of frequent lightning where these occur and big drops of rainfall, but away from any showers, although there'll be some medium and high level cloud. For many, it's another warm or hot one today with temperatures of 32 Celsius in London, 28 Celsius for northern Scotland. But across Scotland and Northern Ireland, the chance into the evening of further thundery showers before they clear away. And that low cloud returns to North Sea beaches overnights and edges inland as the night goes on. But clear spells for many, and it's another warm one, 19, 20 Celsius in places, mid to high teens across northern parts of the UK, 20 or 21 Celsius in the south. As we begin Friday, some patchy cloud around, some low cloud around some of these southwestern shores, as well as the North Sea coast. But otherwise, for many, it's sunny skies, and we'll see a chance of temperatures ending up even higher, 32, and as we go into Saturday, 33 Celsius possible.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything, I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
A nationwide manhunt is underway for a terror suspect who's escaped from prison.
Hello there, good to have you on board. It's a Thursday morning, it's the 7th of September, and the time is 7 o'clock. You're tuned into Breakfast in GB News. Eamonn, Holmes and Ellie Costello this morning.
Leading the news this morning, the hunt is on for the terror suspect and former British Army soldier Daniel Khalif, who escaped from Wandsworth prison yesterday. GB News Home and Security Editor Mark White is on the scene for us.
Well, the day shift is arriving here as the prison service orders an urgent review of security at HMP Wandsworth. Meanwhile, counter-terrorism police are also trying to determine whether Daniel Khalif had help in escaping this prison.
New research shows 2 in 5 voters think childcare will be a key issue in the next general election. What does that mean for the government? We'll be putting that to them.
Prince Harry is back in the UK to present an award for a charity as we look ahead to tomorrow's anniversary of the passing of Queen Elizabeth II.
Carlos Alcaraz has defeated Alexander Zverev in the quarterfinals of the US Tennis Open. Can he go all the way? We've got Paul Coit to bring you the latest sports news.
And we'll have your latest weather forecast with Aidan McGibbon.
It's another hot one today and tomorrow and Saturday. How high will the temperatures go, and will there be a thundery breakdown at any point? I'll have the full forecast coming up soon.
OK, here's the top story this morning, and as Ellie was saying earlier, it's like the plot of a movie. It's a nationwide manhunt. It's continuing for a 21-year-old former soldier suspected of terror offences, and he escaped from Wandsworth prison yesterday.
Yes, Daniel Abed Khalif broke out of Her Majesty's Wandsworth prison in southwest London by clinging onto a food delivery van whilst wearing a chef's uniform.
And Khalif is waiting trial in relation to terrorism and Official Secrets Act breaches while at an RAF base. GB News spoke to the new Shadow Secretary of State for Justice, who said that the Prime Minister needs to get a grip.
I think the government has very serious questions to answer. We know that the criminal justice system, after 13 years of Tory government, is in a state of disrepair. We know that there are huge problems with prisons and prison places in particular. And as we've seen, there is now a terror suspect on the loose, having escaped from Wandsworth prison. So big questions for the government to answer. Frankly, Rishi Sunak needs to get a grip.
Well, our Home and Security Editor, Mark White, joins us live from the scene of the escape. Good morning to you, Mark. And as we've been saying, this is something out of Hollywood, isn't it?
Well, yes, certainly the manner of this young man's escape, clinging to the underside of a food truck that was leaving Wandsworth prison just about 23 hours ago. Last hour when you joined me, there was a food truck that had just arrived here at the prison. Again, just a few minutes before you came to me, that same food truck has now gone into prison. So I think it looks as though that may well have been the type of truck that would have been here at this exact time yesterday, unloading and then leaving. And what's really to be determined is whether Daniel Khalif really just took his chance. It was an opportunist moment for him, or whether it was more organised, whether he had some help in this escape bid. So if he had some help, clearly that has all kinds of ramifications for the ongoing police investigation. It could potentially just make it that much more difficult if he's on his own, clearly, out there fending for himself, looking for a place to go. It might be easier to catch up with him. If there are other people that may have been involved in facilitating his escape, they could have whisked him off to some undisclosed location. Clearly, he's not been found a day on from his escape, so there is some concern. And all the while, of course, that nationwide manhunt has meant that the ports and airports are seeing some queues because of enhanced security at the exits to these ports and airports, ensuring that this terror suspect does not flee the country.
Individual, Mark, what do we know about Daniel Khalif and what he's being accused of?
Well, he was in the British Army until May of this year, when he was discharged after being arrested and facing these terrorism charges. He faces 3 charges, one of planting hoax bomb devices at an RAF base in the Stafford area, also charges of eliciting information, trying to elicit information that would be of use to terrorists, and another third charge of obtaining or trying to obtain information under the Official Secrets Act that could be useful to a hostile state actor. He was due to stand trial in November of this year, clearly now at large. The police are saying that they really have assessed him as being low risk to the public. Having said that, they are urging the public not to approach this young man if they see anything or they hear of anything that might result in his whereabouts being known. Then they should contact the police on 999 as a matter of urgency.
OK, Mark White, thank you so much for bringing us up to speed on what is a very dramatic story. Thank you so much for that.
Any calls in on that so far this morning, anybody? Because we're saying that it seems to be very well organised. No one asks, why are there no mirrors on the ground as vans leave, says Lewin. And it's a pretty standard thing of people looking for explosive devices under cars.
Oh, they go around, don't they, with the...
Yeah.
And Irene says that. She says, I used to work for the prison service, and usually in the gate lodge where vehicles come and go, the staff should use a gadget, which is what I think you're talking about, which is rolled under the vehicles. It has a mirror on it, and they use it in ports to check underneath. So that should have happened, says Irene, in response to Lewin saying, why has that not happened?
John says we can't secure our borders. Why does anybody expect we can secure our prisons as well? And is there a morale problem within prisons? So there's been, under austerity, there's been big cutbacks in prisons and things as well. But anyway, this guy, my guess is he's planned this. You don't just suddenly say, here's a van, I'm just going to tie myself to the bottom of it. You sort of have to know what time it comes in, who's there checking it,
the gap,
what's its undercarriage like, all that sort of thing.
We were saying we wouldn't last 10 seconds, would we, clinging onto the underside of a van?
Oh, I'd fall off.
It takes some planning, doesn't it? And the outfit, you've got to think, where's he got a chef's outfit from?
Was that not his job within the in the prison?
Well, we don't know the detail, do we? But one would think, who has a spare chef's outfit?
Well, as you say, it's like a film. It's like a film plot.
It is.
And with the time it's 7 minutes past 8, we want to talk now and we want you to think seriously, because I think about this a lot. I don't do anything about it, but I think about it a lot. And that is what you eat. And there is a lot of talk in the past week about the dangers of ultra-processed foods, right? And it gets worse and worse and worse. And it depresses me, I have to say. There have been recent studies linking all of these to dementia, to heart attacks, to strokes. We know all the problems. Why do we allow it to happen?
Well, one of the reasons might be because those foods, those ultra-processed foods, make up 57% of our diet. How worried should we be about what we're eating? Well, let's speak now to the wellness chef, Sandy Vara, who joins us now in the studio. Good morning to you, Sandy. Really good to see you.
Good morning, good morning.
So what do we mean when we're talking about ultra-processed foods?
What we're talking about is food is food. Everything is processed at some point. So take, for example, say, a potato. It's a nice vegetable. The moment you start mashing it, adding other ingredients, making it into a different dish, it's then being processed. Now, what's happened over the years is that we've now had foods that is, we want to add more salt, we want to add more sugar, we want to make it cheaper, we want to make it more tastier, we want to make it more, the longevity of it, we want to keep it so it has a long shelf life. And we want it more importantly, we want it cheaper for the companies. At the end of the day, that's what they really want. They want to make it as cheap as possible and sell it at a price that's profitable for them. But it's not good for us. Simple as that. It's not.
I just don't. You see, this is where I think government fail all the time. That why did they allow this to happen? We know we're paying the bill for this at the end of the day in terms of our health or the National Health Service or whatever, and it's things now like microwaving, like packets. So say we're talking about sauces, and you open up a packet, and you just know. You just have to read the ingredients. Yeah. Chemicals.
What I say to people always say to me, oh, what do I need to avoid? Well, first of all, just read the ingredients. Thankfully, the government got one thing right, which is get all the information out there. You can look on the internet, you can look on companies, what they make, and on the packaging, just turn it around. Before you buy it, just turn it around. And if you're buying, say, for example, sausages, perfect example. There's a particular brand out there, an Irish one, that I used to love when I was a child.
Yeah.
If you look at the meat content that's in there, you'll be flabbergasted.
In a good way or a bad way?
In a very bad way.
Oh, my word.
A very bad way. We were brought up on these sausages that were containing a horrific amount of chemicals, a horrific amount of bread. And what did we used to do as children? Have it in a butty.
Yeah.
Have it in a sandwich. So we were just eating bread on bread.
But look, Sandy, we get to this situation. I mean, you speak from experience. You were a man much bigger in bulk than you are.
A lot bigger.
Because you were eating badly.
Yep.
Then you become a chef and you eat well and you eat good. But what I'm trying to say is, why? It's not my job to go into a supermarket and look at ingredients and say, contains chemical K5. I don't know if that's good, bad or indifferent. I just say, don't sell it to me. If this is bad, don't sell it to me. Don't allow it on the shelves.
Well, unfortunately, those big companies have got something with the government. Who knows? I don't know.
Food lobby is very strong.
It's massive, and it's not new. Jamie Oliver's tried to do it. There's other chefs out there that have tried to change the world. But now that it's really, really affecting the NHS, and you just need to look at people.
Yeah.
Yeah, just look at people. There's this thing on social media that has a picture of a beach in the 1970s, and it takes a picture of a beach in present day.
And are we
it's frightening.
Are we looking at people's waist?
Size.
Yeah.
Size.
Yeah.
Sandy, you would have been really proud of me last night because I went into the shops and I looked at a sauce packet. It's so funny, I didn't know we were doing this today. And I read the back of the sauce packet and it was just chemicals. And it was full of sugar and full of oil.
Did you buy it?
No, and do you know what I did instead?
What?
I bought passata and herbs and...
I don't even know what passata is. What is
passata? Beautiful.
Like runny tomatoes, right?
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I made my own sauce and it took 5 minutes and it tasted so much better.
You know, I was discussing in myself before I come on the show about what is a perfect example of how to make something that you can buy in the shops that's ultra-processed, a classic Italian tomato sauce.
Yes.
Look at the back of one of those jars. Every single one of them. For starters, they're Italian. And they're not made in Italy. So already the alarm bells are ringing. Second, there's about 15 to 20 ingredients to make a tomato sauce. Now, as a chef, I only need 4 ingredients. First thing, olive oil. Beautiful. Some garlic. A little onion. And then tomatoes. Job done.
I did all of
4 ingredients. And is that what you did?
That's exactly what I did, yeah.
And the thing is, people used to make this, but what's happened is there's been game changers. There's been these TV chefs that have been coming along and showing you how to make stuff and then doing things differently.
But also we're lazy and there's pressures on our time.
There's certain delivery companies out there that have come along and changed the whole... It's a game changer. Now people are not even cooking at home anymore.
Yeah.
You can just pick up the phone, press a button, and it's delivered to your home.
And where you two have an advantage over me, I'm not a natural cook. I don't have that yearning to... I have the yearning to enjoy good food.
Yeah.
I'm looking at an advert sitting right on top of me, and I hear it on the radio every day coming into work, and it makes me so angry. That's an accident, this paper's open.
Yeah.
But it says, breakfast done properly. But I can't think of a worse example of this fast food outlet and what they classify as an egg or a piece of bacon inside this bread. But if that is what we're fooled to believe that is breakfast done properly, I absolutely despair.
There's a particular sandwich shop chain, and their bread is now classified in Ireland as cake.
Why do you keep quoting Ireland?
I don't know, it just seems to happen that I'm here. It just seems to be here.
But you're right. I mean, I do think we have a food problem in Ireland, like everywhere else. And we do love bread, and we do love potatoes.
We love bread here.
We love carbohydrates in general. And leave is the danger. I do think it's a disgrace.
It is.
Food agencies... They allow this to happen. And I've got to be in my bonnet about all this because I'm watching a programme about opioids, which we'll talk about later on in the programme. And what we are served up, it's like there's no choice to us. The people say you have a choice and whatever it is. And
it's very difficult. I mean, I went low-carb keto, as you well know. We've known each other a while. And it is difficult. And when I'm on the road and doing stuff, it's very difficult. For normal people.
You have a discipline and you've got a talent, obviously, as well, which...
Thankfully, because I'm a chef, it clicked for me. Because I'm a chef and I was on the verge of becoming diabetic and all my family are diabetic, I'm the only one that's not.
It's a big thing in Asian families.
Absolutely. It's because we've mixed the style of foods. We went Western foods. So ultra foods, soda pop, number one. Number one.
I'm addicted.
Get rid of that.
Yeah.
Get rid of it. Breakfast cereals, another ultra-processed food.
Right.
Oils. There's only 5 to 6 kind of oils that you should be having. Avocado oil, olive oil, butter, lard, dare I say it, beef dripping, and coconut oil. That's all you need.
Well, where do we stand with sunflower oil? That sounds so healthy and lovely.
It's processed.
Processed. Yeah, forget it.
And that's in everything.
It's in everything. And the most number one oil in the country is vegetable oil. Where do you get vegetable oil from?
Vegetables.
How?
Vegetables aren't oily, are they, really?
If I squeezed a potato hard enough into an inch of its life, what comes out of it?
Water.
So how do they make vegetable oil? Tell me. I've tried to figure it out. I've gone on the internet to figure it out.
So vegetable oil is a lie. It doesn't exist.
It doesn't. It's just a load of horrific things put together and served to us because it's cheaper.
Yeah. Do you think a lot of the issue here, Sandy, is food education?
Oh, 100%.
People don't know how to cook anymore. People aren't taught how to cook. I mean, I was taught by my granny, but lots of people aren't handing down those skills.
I agree with you that this would be a better subject to teach at school than Shakespeare.
Yep.
It's practice. It's everything. It feeds into everything. It's our health. It's our longevity. It's...
People think that that food isn't that important. It is the number one thing that will solve every problem.
Yeah.
So true.
What you put in your gut changes everything. That's where we get diseases. I'm currently on a fasting right now, Eamonn. You're going to love this.
What's your fasting routine?
I fast for 5 days. I don't eat anything.
What? I thought you could say be 5 hours.
What?
No, 5 days.
Oh.
I haven't eaten
What day are
since
you on now?
I didn't eat... I stopped eating on Monday at 7:30, and I won't eat until Saturday. But I did break slightly today, because I left Nottingham at 3 o'clock in the morning and I thought I'd better have a coffee. So I had a black coffee. And I'm allowed a black coffee, but normally I just have water.
And how are you feeling?
Unbelievable.
Good. Unbelievably good as opposed to unbelievable.
Unbelievably good.
Wow.
Because we don't need to consistently eat. Every religion, every culture around the world, they fast. They fast for a reason, not just for religion. They fast because it has a benefit.
Yeah.
Humans thousands of years ago figured this out. They figured stuff out about herbs, foods. Every food can heal us. Every food can give us nutrition. If you have a diesel car and you put petrol in it, what's going to happen? It's the same thing as your body. You must look after your gut. It's the number one thing. It'll help your mental health. It'll change you. Look at my skin.
Do you know...
I'm nearly 50.
You look great, yeah.
And I'm fasting.
It's like a baby's bottom. Incredible.
It is very smooth and
lovely.
A little trick, though, is to shave before you go on a TV show, just to let you know.
But, you know, Sandy, yesterday morning I was coming out of work, and the way we are here, we don't have eating facilities in here, whatever it is, but I was coming out and say it was 10 o'clock or something, and I go, oh, I have to have breakfast. I thought, what really should be said, am I hungry? No, I wasn't, but I felt, well, it's that time of the morning, and you should. Yeah. And then the next thing is you have to have lunch, and then you have to have afternoon something, and then you have to have...
Which comes from America. They invented us. They told us how to eat. It goes back again. It's a standard American diet.
Yeah.
Back in the olden days, we just ate food.
Yeah.
What was ever off the land in season, so...
This caveman diet.
Well, not even caveman. So when we are the allotments, so whoever grew like a courgette or a marrow or a tomatoes, it was made into something. We used to have pigs in the house back in Great Britain.
That's right, because they give heat off.
Yeah, we didn't have bananas in this country until the 1950s. We started to mix around with food. The food that we ate was seasonal and in this area.
Sandy, your message is amazing. I don't think anybody will do a darn thing about it. But there's so much that we can do to help our own wellness, whether we have the strength or the vision to do all of that. And we could go on forever talking about this. But thank you. This debate about processed food, and then there's ultra-processed food. If it's in a packet, really sort of try and avoid it, really.
Try and avoid it. I mean, like I was saying earlier, I changed my diet. I become low-carb and keto, and obviously bread is everywhere. And every now and then, I decided to have a bit of bread. I looked in the back of packaging and just take a look. If it's got a ridiculous amount of ingredients in, it's not good.
Yeah, I know.
Simple.
My friend, we've got to say goodbye to you because it's breakfast time. And it's like I now get to a stage in life where I don't feel better after eating.
Yeah.
You sort of you want to eat, but then after you've eaten, you feel
And I feel better after not eating.
Yeah.
5 days.
Well,
I can't believe that.
Don't have anything. Look, there's a big picture of a donut in front of one of the papers here.
Yeah, look there.
And he can't touch anything till Saturday.
Pleasure.
Absolute pleasure.
Lovely.
He is the wellness chef. He is Sandy Vara. And you've got a website, haven't you, and things?
Yeah, it's thewellnesschef.co.uk.
Yeah, and follow him on Instagram as well, and you'll see some of the stuff that he does there. Thanks for talking about the dangers of ultra-processed foods.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very much. Now let's bring you up to date with the rest of today's top stories.
The Science Secretary, Michelle Donelan, has confirmed Britain's associate membership to the European Union.
The £85 billion science research programme. The scheme is a collaboration involving Europe's leading research institutes and technology companies. We'll be speaking to her about that later this morning.
America has announced it will send depleted uranium tank shells to Ukraine. This is part of more than £800 million in aid. Russia has condemned the move to equip tanks with what is a controversial armour-piercing munition.
Ministers have published the list of schools affected by the concrete crisis. There's 147 schools listed. That number is expected to swell, though, as assessments continue. So far, 19 have had to delay the start of term, 4 have gone fully remote, and 20 are running what's being called hybrid schooling.
Network Rail is due in court over a train crash which claimed 3 lives 3 years ago. The case will be heard at the High Court in Aberdeen. Hot. Here's a hot forecast from Maiden.
A brighter outlook with Boxed Solar. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. It's Aidan McGibbon here from the Met Office with the GB News forecast. After a warm night, it's a hot and sunny one once again for most of us. Some clouds in the sky, however, as we start things off, especially these North Sea coast once again. Now, that cloud will burn back to the beaches through the morning, but there's also some cloud associated with thundery showers moving up north across western parts of the UK. These will be hit and miss through the day. Chance of frequent lightning where these occur and big drops of rainfall, but away from any showers, although there'll be some medium and high level cloud. For many, it's another warm or hot one today, with temperatures of 32 Celsius in London, 28 Celsius for northern Scotland. But across Scotland and Northern Ireland, the chance into the evening of further thundery showers before they clear away. And that low cloud returns to North Sea beaches overnight and edges inland as the night goes on. But clear spells for many, and it's another warm one. 19, 20 Celsius in places, mid to high teens across northern parts of the UK, 20 or 21 Celsius in the south. As we begin Friday, some patchy cloud around, some low cloud around some of these southwestern shores, as well as the North Sea coast. But otherwise, for many, it's sunny skies, and we'll see a chance of temperatures ending up even higher, 32, and as we go into Saturday, 33 Celsius possible.
A brighter outlook with Boxed Solar. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamonn.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Dan Wootton. You can watch me live on GB News Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. And did you know that you can also watch and listen live on our website, gbnews.com. You'll always be up to date on the latest breaking news, as well as enjoying the best stories, opinions and shows. You can even join the debate under our live player as you're watching. So head straight to gbnews.com on TV, radio and online. GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
The the time edging towards 7:30. Eamonn and Ellie. This is Breakfast on GB News.
Yes, lots coming up on today's programme, including at 8:15, a new Netflix series comes out on the growing opioid crisis. This one you've been watching.
Yeah, Painkiller.
Yeah, and we're going to be looking into why hundreds of thousands of people are dying from pain relief drugs.
Okay. Then after 9 o'clock this morning, the chair of the Women and Equality Select Committee, that's Caroline Noakes, she sits down with GB News to talk about sexism in sport following the whole Spanish football kiss scandal. And we've just been talking about processed food, and you've been getting in touch with us there, and there's the address on the screen for us to get in touch here. There's so many subjects that we've covered today, childcare, for instance, being one of them. Is it a vote winner on the next general election? Sandra says, I'm in my 70s, but as a child, my friend and I had to look after her baby brother while her mother worked every Saturday morning. And this is like, we were talking about how people just had to make do, or they had to decide whether they were going to have children or not. And they had family circles to look after children in the family. Whereas now people move away from their original home and they've got no family.
That's a really good point, actually.
Yeah,
I hadn't thought about that. Lots of you getting in touch on food as well. Chris and Mark say, lazy British people. They say they've always cooked, even when they work 10 hours a day. We then say we aren't taught to cook. Well, there's always Google, isn't there?
Well, Barry says for me, Eamonn, you surprise me constantly in a good way.
Oh, well, that's good.
He says, but isn't it about time you learned how to cook? And I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, and I think, yes, I think part of my problem, I'm probably lazy about it. I don't have any natural interest except eating as opposed to cooking. I don't like doing dishes. So when
You've got a dishwasher for that?
There's a lot of dishes. And also, my wife is a very strident woman, and she's territorial, and she's a very good cook. And she just likes her kitchen to herself. She wouldn't have me in there.
Yeah.
She wouldn't tolerate me.
Yeah, I think a lot of women would feel that way.
Why?
It's just your domain, isn't it? Especially if you like cooking.
She knows
you like to be the one in
everything
charge. I get that.
Honestly, once on my Instagram, I put a picture. There's a drawer in our kitchen you pull out. And honestly, you would have to see what's in it. And you'd hold it up and say, what is that? It's like a part of a quiz thing. There are all these devices that are weird, that look as if they've come from a torture dungeon or something. And they're either luminous green or pink or whatever it is. And I look and I think, what is in this drawer? What would you even use? And then where I get into trouble, if I empty the dishwasher, and if I ever say the following words, where does this go?
Oh.
It'd usually be stuck up my backside, really, I would have thought. It's, why?
But then if you don't ask, you put it in the wrong place, and
well,
that's
of course
worse.
you do, and that's worse. You
That's
know,
worse.
So why is that such a crime to say, where does this go? I said, I'm being really helpful. I'm emptying the dishwasher, but I can't even do that right.
No, well, Ruth's domain.
I can see your face. You're going, she's
yeah,
talking
I
my
can relate.
language
I'm like,
here.
I'm with Ruth on this one, I think. Sorry.
GB Views at gbnews.com, where you can tweet or X us, you Xy people, at GB News.
Now, we're going to stick to the theme of food, shall we? Because we are foodies, aren't we, both of us? But this is something totally different. More than 650 academics have called on British universities to commit to 100% plant-based catering, vegan otherwise, to fight climate change.
OK, this all comes in an open letter. It's sent to UK university chancellors, and it was organised by the Plant-Based Universities student-led campaign.
Well, it's not just academics. Other signatories include Chris Packham and the Green Party MP Caroline Lucas. So today we're asking, should UK universities go vegan in order to save the planet?
OK, let's debate this now with Jennifer White. Jennifer is a senior media and communications manager. Jennifer, I never know if it's PETA or PETA.
It's Peter.
PETA, OK, like blue PETA.
Yeah, like the name.
Like that. Oh, yeah, OK. And there beside her is Gareth Wynne-Jones. Gareth is a sheep farmer, and you do that in Wales, Gareth. What sort of sheep do you have?
We have beef, sheep, and I grow a lot of my own vegetables as well. And my family's been on this farm for 375 years.
Yeah.
So good morning, what are that?
Oh, is that your milk there?
It's my neighbour's milk that's shipped here every 2 days. Local, seasonal, sustainable food at its best.
Do you know, Gareth, I have a great interest in agriculture and farming. My first job in journalism was as a farming reporter, and I watch any programme that is related to what you guys do, and I wouldn't want to be a farmer. I think it's tough. I think it's thankless. I think people just don't understand the value of it. And something like the Ukraine situation happens, and then suddenly, oh, farmers, we love our farmers, we love what they do, whatever. Then they'll dump you again, these politicians, and they'll not give you the support that you need. However, that doesn't take away from what Jennifer's here to talk about. What is the pressure, Gareth, though, on you guys as farmers? So you're trying to sell your product. There's a lot of people who would want you to stop selling your product, which is sheep in this case. What would you say to the general public out there?
Back British agriculture, get behind us. And, you know, these universities should be stopping all imported food, everything that's flown in, shipped in. You know, they don't know how it's grown, how it's produced, and what sprays and what fertiliser goes on these things. Buy British. You know, if you want to bring down the count of your death toll on your plate, kill one cow and feed many people. That's a fact. I grow my own vegetables. I grow my own salads. I know what it takes to put food on my family's plate every day. And I will tell you, Eamonn, a lot more creatures die for me to get my veg on the plate and salad than it does for me to get my meat. That's a fact.
I'm sure, Jennifer, you'll appreciate, you know, Gareth's passion, the fact that he's talking about how he earns his living, but you would feel there's a bigger problem at stake here, a bigger problem to solve.
Absolutely. And honestly, everyone should be supporting initiatives which are encouraging people to eat more vegan foods, because we know that the meat and dairy industries are some of the worst offenders when it comes to contributing to the climate emergency. And, you know, that is not just vegans who are saying this. The United Nations is urging people to eat more plant-based foods in order to cut their carbon footprint. And that is why the best thing that any of us can do today is take personal responsibility for the planet, for animals, and go vegan.
What do you make of that then, Gareth? The meat and dairy industry being one of the worst contributors to the climate crisis.
Yeah, another absolute joke. They just, listen, they'll bend figures to whatever they want. This is what these people do. These paid organisations, she sits there, she gets paid by an organisation to say what she wants. I'm telling you, you know, I'm in this industry. My family's been on this land 375 years, and you're welcome to come up. I've nearly got 1 million followers on YouTube. I've got hundreds of thousands on my social medias. Check me out. It's Gareth Lynn Jones or one Gareth Lynn Jones. And you'll see what I do every day. I educate people. Eat seasonal, okay? That's what we should be doing. I'm growing my veg. I'm taking sweet corn out of my... I'm eating a great vegan diet, but I've got a few vegans on my diet with it, with my grass-fed cattle and sheep. You know, these are some of the most sustainable foods we can have. And it's about a balance. You just had Sandy on there talking about processed foods. We have a massive obesity problem in this country. We have people with ill health and ill mental health. And it's all to do with what we put in our bellies. And I think some of these vegans are totally, and these big organisations are misleading people to go sick in the long run. My father's 87, works 7 days a week, has eaten a balanced diet. Look at me, I'm 56. You know, I'm in top form. I work out every day in my job, and I eat well. And you've got to feed your body. What you put in is what you get out.
Jennifer's not objecting to that, and we can all know that it's a difficult, hard grind job that you do. But could you make a living from being a vegan farmer?
So, Eamonn, this is where these people don't really understand, okay? Where does our fertiliser come? So up here, I use very little artificial fertiliser. Without the cows and the sheep, I wouldn't be able to grow my crops. 70% of this country is marginal land, which is grass, okay? We have a temperate climate which grows the grass. When the sheep and the cows eat that grass, it then regrows and sequences more carbon into the ground. It's a circle. So when they're saying that cows and sheep are the problem,
I understand that.
it's rubbish.
But Jennifer, you can see the dilemma here. I'm sure you're not arguing about that. But, I mean, you would also be appealing to Gareth and say, your industry is yesterday's news. Things have got to change. Things have got to evolve. Is there any inspirations, any help you can give to farmers like Gareth and say, look, you can be part of our revolution?
Well, look, you know, I love farmers. I rely on farmers every day, but I choose to support the farmers that focus on arable farming, on vegetables, fruits, grains, nuts, pulses. And we are seeing more farmers transitioning away from animal agriculture because they know that the future is heading in a vegan direction. And, you know, a lot of what Gareth is saying is greenwashing, to be honest, because we know that meat, whether it's produced locally, you know, is just as bad for the environment as, you know, anything that would be imported. So, for example, British lamb has a carbon footprint 17 times larger than that of tofu, which is produced in Asia. And, you know, honestly, the best thing any of us can do today is go vegan, and it has never been easier.
But Jennifer, wouldn't you say it's down to the individual? I mean, Gareth talking there, he says he loves his veggies. He eats a lot of vegan food in that sense, but he also enjoys sustainable meat from his farm. I mean, you can understand that, can't you?
There's no such thing as sustainable meat. You cannot be a meat-eating environmentalist. It's just not possible. And that's why we are seeing the United Nations, we are seeing all of these scholars, these institutions, councils are also going vegan because we owe it to future generations, you know. And a recent study by Nature Food revealed that if everyone in the UK went vegan, they would reduce their carbon footprint for food by 75%. That is absolutely massive, you know, and it's high time that people get on board.
And what do you think, Jennifer, is your chance of turning Britain's universities vegan, and really does it make that much difference if you did?
Oh, it makes a huge difference. And, you know, we're already seeing a lot of universities with fully vegan cafes who are having fully vegan events. And all of this action is a meaningful way to address the ongoing climate emergency, which, frankly, more people need to be talking about.
Well,
OK, Gareth, you're shaking your heads there. Just 15 seconds to come back to that.
If you want to do anything in universities, back British agriculture and get a campaign to be backing every single food on that plate in the universities being produced in Britain.
OK, guys, thank you both very, very much indeed. We've got it out there. We've served it up to people this morning. We'll see what they think. Jennifer and Gareth, thank you. Thank you very much indeed. I just think being a farmer's hard graft, really hard. I mean, I would have had time, I'd have asked Gareth what's he already done this morning, you know, in terms of work and chores and
that would have been a good question,
things that he's got to do, and it won't end, you know, till when the sun comes up, till the sun goes down again.
It's absolutely essential work, isn't it?
Would turning universities vegan, would it just be good news for off-campus cafes and restaurants and food outlets? That's the thing. I would have to see a vegan menu to see what there would be on it. I mean, I like most foods and you can flavour them, as you say there, whatever. But would you actually lick your lips with a vegan service?
It's not for me, but I do think a lot of the student population now, that would have been a good question for Jennifer. We've got all the good questions in hindsight now. But I think a lot of the student population now is vegan.
Yeah,
a lot of that Generation Z now, a lot of them are vegan, so maybe it would be quite popular.
Maybe.
Let us know what you think. gbviews@gbnews.com.
Scientists have created a synthetic human embryo in a lab. More on that in the papers with Claire and Freddie next.
This September, the GB News family is back together. From breakfast right across the day, breaking the latest stories, and every evening. And don't forget the weekend. We've got the whole of the UK covered. Every week, we'll be hearing your views from up and down the country with fun, lively and intelligent conversation with the biggest guests. This September, we'll meet Chris and John. Thank you for choosing GB News. We're proud to be Britain's news channel.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard. We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often they will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
They're going through the newspapers and sharing them with you, some of the big stories that are there.
Yeah, and the front page of The Guardian, Claire, let's start there, shall we? This is an undercover police officer deceived a woman into a 19-year relationship.
Well, you know, we say stories in the newspapers, but this is something out of, we were just saying, Line of Duty or Happy Valley. An undercover...
So this is his job?
His job as an undercover cop.
Supported by his authority, his local force or whatever?
Yes, but he kept a relationship secret from the force, but not obviously the woman he was with and partnered with. He subsequently adopted her child, and then they had a child together, and then they got engaged.
Well, it's more than business, surely. There must have been an emotional attachment to all of it.
Well, of course there is, Eamonn, but, you know, when you have an embedded officer, you know, they take on the role of another persona,
they live
really.
It, breathe it, believe it.
And the other identity of the embedded officer was actually used on the birth certificate for the child that he had with this woman. This woman's family have been torn apart, they say, with the revelation that when the police officer commission came to them to talk to them, he kept it secret, the relationship secret.
Think of her. She looks at him and you say, you were my husband, you were my lover, you lived in this house, we have had a child together. And this was your job?
And you didn't tell me you were a policeman? And then when even in Somerset, I think it was the police authority found out this news, they sat on it for a good number of years, and then they went to the family to say, look, the man you thought you were married to is not the man you thought he was.
Dear, dear, dear.
I feel
she thought he was a businessman.
didn't she?
Yes.
And I think, if I understood the story correctly, he stopped the job. He was no longer undercover for 8 of the years.
He left the police force, Freddie.
So
he was
for
no
8
longer
years, he wasn't
policeman.
even undercover policeman. He was just a fraud. But the police did not alert the family to this. I think there's quite big implications for the force.
Oh, of course there is. Of course there is.
What happened?
And that whole family, I mean, has been absolutely torn apart. I mean, it even talks about the stress on the woman's mum and dad.
Yes.
I mean, they literally feel as though they've all been living a lie for 2 decades.
Well, they have been. They've not, but they've been made to be part of this fiction of this embedded police officer.
Terrible.
It was terrible.
You couldn't make it up. This is another story today which could be a movie plot.
Well, yes, it reminded me of all those hooligan movies, you know, where it's a police officer goes undercover, gets involved in the hooligan, and then gets so into the world that he loses himself.
Let's talk about the head of the Bank of England, the governor of the Bank of England, and mortgage rates, Freddie. Front page of the Eye that he's actually saying now, well, we might be reaching the top of the curve as regards mortgage interest rates.
Well, this is Andrew Bailey, the governor of the Bank of England, sort of trying to signal that good news is on the way. There is supposed to be, I think it's 21st of September, there is supposed to be a rise coming.
It's 2 weeks today, I think.
Andrew Bailey is hinting that that might not be the case, and that actually there's no suggestion they're going to be coming down or anything yet. But inflation is falling. It's actually starting to fall quite significantly now on all indices, I should say. And so the good news is that it looks like inflation is coming under control. Is that down to the government's policy? Is that down to the Bank of England tightening interest rates? And should we really listen to the Bank of England? Because after all, it is the Bank of England that let inflation rip for so long, and then had to do these very aggressive rate rises. Because they let it get so badly out of control.
They are aggressive rate rises, and they're also in such quick succession. I mean, we've had 14 of them in a row now. It's almost like you need to give it time to actually think through and adjust. Exactly.
Well, they were small, they were incremental, but frequent. And there's a theory. People who know about economics will know about this more than me, but there's a theory that if they'd done one very aggressive jump, so a 2 or 3% jump. That might have had more of an impact than just saying every sort of few months 2.5.
The idea is to either scare us or educate us into not spending money. So I put it to you, instead of us all being broke, people can't pay their rent or their repayments on their car, or whatever it happens to be, what if the governor of the Bank of England came out and said, look, folks, we are up the creek without a paddle here. You're all spending too much money. However, we can do one of two things. We can ask you not to spend, to keep everything under wraps until Christmas or whatever, or we can penalise you big time with interest rates. Which would you like it to be? If in the next months we all stop spending, we'll all be happy. But if you don't...
Well, I veer towards the libertarian, so I think I prefer people to be encouraged to not spend, and they shouldn't even really need to be encouraged to not spend. I mean, I think what's been extraordinary is that in this post-pandemic economy, people are still spending. People are in trouble, but the consumer patterns are amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and even when, you know, this is why supermarkets got away with price jacking so much, was because people were willing to pay. People managed to save. A lot of people managed to save. Not everybody. There's people really suffering.
I think the whole model of consumerism has changed so much that we've gone now to internet buying, and it's so easier, and it's so much, you know, it's
and on the Never Never.
Yeah, you know, buy on the Never Never. You've got Klarna coming up, for heaven's sake, when you maybe purchase an online order on Deliveroo. If you can't afford to buy a Deliveroo takeaway, don't get it on Klarna. If you can't afford it, just don't buy it.
Oh, yeah, easy. Look, if you order something from Deliveroo and you say, how much at the end of it? And I think, listen, I get a good salary. I'm very lucky. But I started out the year and I said, right, my mortgage is going up. X is happening, the Y is happening. We still need to do A, B, and C and whatever. And I thought, I've got to make significant savings, not just like, you know, a few £100 or whatever it is. So I thought, no foreign holiday, right? Absolutely, we're not spending on that. And there was a few other things that I looked at. And you just made the decision, we're not spending that money, we're not doing that. And I'm thinking, phew. But as Freddie said, it never ceases to amaze me, people who won't give up their holidays. It's my right to have a holiday. But if I'm thinking, right, well, if you can afford that £5,000, £10,000, whatever, good luck to you.
I'm very glad you say that, Eamonn, because Deliveroos and foreign holidays was what I told my wife this year that we're going to cut out. And now I can say, well, Eamonn says it too. I've got some backup.
Well, definitely. There's certain things like, changing the car or various things. I thought, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
But I despair. I do look at the price of things, Claire. And, think of you. You've brought up children and you've been a single parent and all sorts of things like that. You try going. Well, bring children to a leisure park or the cinema. Or whatever. I mean, you need to take out a loan for something like that.
Yeah, or we just didn't go. We made other forms of entertainment, or you made it work, like the Merlin passes, or, you get coupons, or you do something. But I was lucky I had 4 very close together, and they entertained themselves a lot as well. And, we just went away and did what we could when we could. And there wasn't this sense of, I feel enthralled to do this. But you're right. A visit to the cinema before the 2-for-1 deals or anything like that, it was pushing £100, and that was a few years ago. By the time they get their popcorn and everything else,
it is perhaps too easy to be critical of people. I mean, I'm a spendthrift. I'll admit to that. I'm definitely far too casual with money. But I mean, I also think my whole life has been advertising. I've been bombarded with messages to spend my entire life. So is everyone.
And now Alexa's listening to us, isn't it? Selling us things.
Well, they'll do a shopping list and have it done for you by the end of the show.
Wow.
OK, we've got to bring you the weather now. Freddie and Claire back in 40 minutes' time. Here's Aidan.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. It's Aidan McGibbon here from the Met Office with the GB News forecast. After a warm night, it's a hot and sunny one once again for most of us. Some clouds in the sky, however, as we start things off, especially the North Sea coast once again. Now, that cloud will burn back to the beaches through the morning, but there's also some cloud associated with thundery showers moving up north across western parts of the UK. These will be hit and miss through the day. Chance of frequent lightning where these occur and big drops of rainfall, but away from any showers, although there'll be some medium and high level cloud. For many, it's another warm or hot one today with temperatures of 32 Celsius in London, 28 Celsius for northern Scotland. But across Scotland and Northern Ireland, the chance into the evening of further thundery showers before they clear away. And that low cloud returns to North Sea beaches overnights and edges inland as the night goes on. But clear spells for many, and it's another warm one, 19, 20 Celsius in places, mid to high teens across northern parts of the UK, 20 or 21 Celsius in the south. As we begin Friday, some patchy cloud around, some low cloud around some of these southwestern shores, as well as the North Sea coast. But otherwise, for many, it's sunny skies, and we'll see a chance of temperatures ending up even higher, 32, and as we go into Saturday, 33 Celsius possible.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, proud sponsors of...
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamonn.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Dan Wootton. You can watch me live on GB News Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. And did you know that you can also watch and listen live on our website, gbnews.com. You'll always be up to date on the latest breaking news, as well as enjoying the best stories, opinions and shows. You can even join the debate under our live player as you're watching. So head straight to gbnews.com on TV, radio and online. GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the people's channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
A nationwide manhunt is underway for a terror suspect who has escaped from prison.
Hello there, 8 o'clock's the time. It's a Thursday morning, 7th of September. Online, on TV, on radio, around the world. This is Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn, Holmes and Ellie Costello.
Leading the news this morning, the hunt is on for the terror suspect and former British Army soldier Daniel Khalif, who escaped from Wandsworth prison yesterday. GB News Home and Security editor Mark White is on the scene for us.
Well, here at HMP Wandsworth, there is now an urgent review underway of the security measures here at this prison to determine just how Daniel Khalif was able to escape through the main gate here, clinging to the underside of a food delivery van.
There's two big delivery vans behind him there.
Yeah.
One delivering bread. Better be careful who gets out of that. There you see children. And new research shows 2 in 5 voters think childcare will be a key issue in the next general election. So what does it mean for the government? We'll be asking that shortly.
Prince Harry is back in the UK to present an award for a charity as we look ahead to tomorrow's anniversary of the passing of Queen Elizabeth II.
Carlos Alcaraz has defeated Alexander Zverev in the quarterfinals of the US Tennis Open. Can he go all the way? Don't take my word for it. Here's Paul Coit.
Absolutely, take my word for it as well. I think he absolutely can. But it's so hot at Flushing Meadows. Alexander Zverev has said that it could cause a player to die. Also, the transfer window in Saudi Arabia closes in about 14 hours. So just in case Mo Salah has a very important decision to make.
You see, why would their transfer window be longer than the Premier League window? And why aren't they all just sort of coordinated?
Very, very simple. They can do whatever they like.
Yes, you're right.
They do whatever they want.
Wouldn't it be great if somebody's watching and they just signed us up for TV out there?
Well, by the way, it's still available for us, by the way. For a five-a-side. Over 50, sorry, over 40s, five-a-side team.
Yeah, he's 47.
Yes, I know.
47, I know.
Yeah, 47.
I'm 36.
Well, parts of me are. Let's have the latest weather forecast on duty today. Aidan McGivern.
It's another hot one today and tomorrow and Saturday. How high will the temperatures go, and will there be a thundery breakdown at any point? I'll have the full forecast coming up soon.
So here's the big story we're leading with on this Thursday morning. A manhunt nationwide It continues for a former soldier suspected of terror offences. He's awaiting trial, but he still escaped from prison yesterday.
Yes, Daniel Abed Khalif broke out of His Majesty's Wandsworth prison in southwest London by clinging onto a food delivery van whilst wearing a chef's uniform.
Well, he, as I said, was awaiting this trial. The trial is in relation to terrorism and Official Secrets Act offences whilst he was serving at an RAF base.
Well, as authorities race to catch him, former Metropolitan Police Detective Peter Blexley believes it may already be too late.
If he was an opportunist and he clung to this van on the spur of the moment and he's on his own with no pre-planning, no resources and living on his wits, then I would suggest he'll be far easier to find because he would, for example, quite possibly be scavenging in bins for food. He might be shoplifting in order to get a change of clothing and the like, all of which sort of behaviour would bring him to people's attention. If, however, this is pre-planned and he is supported by a network of fellow-minded criminals, then of course he could have cash, shelter, change of clothing, false passport, any number of things, and he may already have left the country.
Let's go to Mark White. Mark's our Home and Security editor, and he is at the scene of the escape this morning. And Mark, it is fascinating that behind you there you have got a food delivery van parked up there, and well, as well as prison vans there as well. But we're all trying to guess what the planning went into this, or was he an opportunist, or what went on, and how long was it before they realised he was gone?
Yeah, well, a few questions there. In terms of whether he was an opportunist, Eamonn, I asked the Metropolitan Police Head of Counter-Terrorism Command, Dominic Murphy, that very question yesterday, whether this may have had some degree of planning. He wasn't able to shed any light on that at this stage. Clearly, if there was some planning that went into this, then that's going to make it that much more difficult for the police to potentially catch up with this man anytime soon, because he could well have been whisked away out of this area to a place undisclosed at this time. As you mentioned, there are a number of vehicles that are coming in and out of this prison now. It's really starting to get quite busy here as the day shift arrives for duty. And just an hour or so ago, we saw a food truck we think is similar to the one that went into Wandsworth Prison yesterday, go in through the main gate. And that will re-emerge at some point. We are talking now exactly 24 hours ago that this young man escaped by, we understand, clinging to the underside of this vehicle. And looking at that vehicle, that food truck as it went in, you could see how that was achievable, because it's quite a high vehicle underneath, definitely room to crawl under there. And it seems some points as well that you could grab a hold of. What has not been answered to any degree at this stage is what kind of checks were carried out. You would imagine it should be a matter of course that those prison officers seeing vehicles leaving at that main sort of archway through the main gate there, there should be a system in place, and indeed it works. Other prisons that I know of, where they have effectively these mirrors on long sticks or on wheels that they put underneath vehicles just to check. Of course, that there's no explosives under vehicles, but also that there's no one hiding under the underside of these vehicles in a bid to escape.
Mark, what do we know of Daniel Khalif, and what has he been accused of?
Well, he was a member of the British Army until May of this year, when he was discharged after he was arrested and then charged with 3 main terror offences. Now, those offences are that he planted hoax bomb devices at an RAF base up in Stafford, that he was serving in that base at the time. Other charges relate to trying to elicit information that would be of use to terrorists And the other charge related really to that is a gathering of information, an offence against the Official Secrets Act, information that could be of use to a hostile state actor. Now, he was due to stand trial in November of this year. At the moment, clearly, he's at large, and it is a nationwide police hunt that is being coordinated by Counter-Terrorism Command because, of course, this is a terror suspect, and that is involving some significant resources at all of the main airports and ports around the country to try to ensure that this man does not escape the UK. That has had a knock-on effect in terms of the delays at many of those ports and airports. And in addition to that, there's all of the inquiries that they'll carry out into areas that this person is linked to. So, for instance, there are family links to Kingston in southwest London, just down the road. Also some links to the northwest of England and to Wales, we understand. And then, of course, they'll be carrying out other inquiries to members of this young man's family, associates and friends that he might also have tried to link up with. So a big multi-pronged nationwide hunt for this terror suspect that's still underway at this hour.
Very much indeed for that very comprehensive update there. In other matters, a new survey has revealed that childcare and early education could be a potential vote winner come the next general election. Nearly half of people polled said this will be a key issue on who to vote for.
And almost 2/3 of voters said they believe good early years education will benefit the whole country. Well, joining us now is Head of Campaigns and Communications at Pregnant Then Screwed, Lauren Fabianski. Really good to see you this morning,
Thank
Lauren.
you for having me.
So tell us about the results of your research.
So our research shows that the sector is currently completely unsustainable. It's at crisis point. We can't retain staff. We can't recruit staff. Nearly all local authorities are struggling to find the staff that they need. And this is particularly concerning because of the expansion plans to the sector that the government announced in the spring statement. If we can't recruit the staff, you can't expand the sector. The reason that you can't recruit the staff is because the staff are paid so little. It's a hugely important job with very high levels of responsibility. You have to do so much training. You're
Lauren,
moulding the future.
I get that.
Yeah.
But I think in a lot of people's minds, it's not being disrespectful to you at all. But I think when you look at what local authorities or government have to pay for, let's take social care or something, for instance, this may be seen as a bit of an optional extra.
OK, great. So the cost of not getting the first 5 years of a child's life, according to the London School of Economics, is over 16 billion a year. That's the cost of not getting these foundational years in a child's life. And childcare and early education has a huge role in making sure that we set the right foundation. On top of that, there's over 1.7 million women in the UK who cannot work the hours that they want to work because they cannot afford the childcare that they need, and they cannot access it.
So the cost of this is a huge problem.
Huge.
You see where I'm coming from here. I think a lot of people would say, look, we've got to pay for A, B, C, D, E. The government says there's no money in the bank for us to do anything. And I find it interesting that your survey has found that this would influence how people actually vote on this.
Yeah, because the average cost of a full-time place for a child under 2 is more than £14,000 a year. So I think we've got 1/3 of families from our research, from Pregnant Then Screwed research, shows that 1/3 of families are relying on debt to pay for childcare right now. We can't afford to have the children that we want to have, and the birth rate is declining.
Right, OK. I've sounded like the wicked uncle here
No,
with all of this. But you said there we can't afford to have the children that we want to. Is that it? Again, people might say, well, you can't afford it, you can't have them then. And in their lives, some people will have had to have made that choice. We simply can't afford these children. Where is it written that it is everyone's right to have as many children as they want?
I mean, we have politicians, some of them that work on this channel, going out and telling the country to bonk for Britain and suggesting that people should get a letter from the Queen when they have their third child. Now, this would be the King, obviously. Rather than making it affordable and accessible for people to actually be able to have a child, this is the channel for the people. And where we are right now, only the elite are going to be able to have children.
So what do you think then? I mean, so you're saying it's unaffordable now to have the amount of children that you want to have, and you can understand that if childcare is £14,000 a year. What do you think it needs then? Do you think if you want to be a parent, you need to have a tax break, or do you think there needs to be more support from the government?
There needs to be more investment from the government into the sector. And there are lots of studies that show how you get some of that investment back into the economy through enabling more people to work, through savings in social care, mental health, physical health of the children later in life. So what we need is the government to work with the sector and create a sustainable, affordable, good quality sector. It's only going to work though if they listen.
They can't afford it. They won't pay for good quality concrete in schools. So again, I'm not objecting to this. I'm simply saying, where on earth is the money going to come from? I see what you're doing.
Yep.
You're putting pressure on the method. I like this, like almost 2 out of 3 voters think that good early years education benefits the whole of the country. I can see how it could be a good investment for everyone. But your poll sort of puts pressure on these politicians to talk child-friendly. Whether they actually would be child-friendly or parent-friendly in this case is another matter. That's the thing.
You can't say that you want the economy to grow and you want the birth rate to stop declining, but then not invest in the structures that enable you to do that.
Yeah. And I mean, Lauren, the context of all of this is really important as well, isn't it? And that is that we are in a cost of living crisis, and the cost of childcare is impossible for so many people.
It absolutely is. We hear from people, we have a support line for parents who are experiencing difficulty and discrimination at the moment, and we hear from people every single day who are having to make heart-wrenching choices. They're choosing between paying for childcare that they need to be able to go to work and paying for essentials like food, like heating, in houses with very small children in them. It's really dire right now.
Really, really tough. So many people. Yeah. Thank you very much, Lauren Fabianski.
Thank you.
Head of Campaigns and Communications at Pregnant Then Screwed. Thank you. And you will have an opinion on that.
I just would have said she's head of communications at a charity.
I was just reading off. I know,
off
our lovely script here.
Do you not think that's like almost X-rated?
What, reading it off here?
No.
All the detail.
Look. What do you...
Pregnant Then Screwed. Yeah.
I mean, that's what you officially are. But what does Pregnant Then Screwed mean?
It means once you have a child, everything changes for you.
It does.
We know that 54,000 women, this is the government's own research, 54,000 women every single year are pushed out of their jobs for getting pregnant or having a child through pregnancy and maternity discrimination.
Is that right? Is that right?
That's right, yeah.
You see, that is quite scary.
It's very scary, yeah.
And when did you guys start up? Because I started hearing about you in the pandemic. Is that when you started?
About 8 years ago now. Yeah.
You did very good work.
Thank you.
I see your stuff everywhere. Thank you so much.
Great.
Really good to meet you.
Thank you for having me.
What else is happening news-wise? Well, let's have a look. Science Secretary Michelle Donnellan has this morning confirmed Britain's associate membership to the European Union. Wonder what we pay for that. It's to the European Union's £85 billion science research programme. I'm not really sure what all this means. But anyway, the scheme is a collaboration involving Europe's leading research institutes and technology companies. Well, actually, we get a chance to speak to her, don't we?
We can ask all of those sorts of questions,
we can ask her those. What on earth is this? What are you paying? What's your membership for? The average UK house price.
Yes, it dropped by 4.6% in August, falling at the fastest rate since 2009. That's according to Halifax, Wales. And the South East saw the sharpest annual falls.
America has announced it will send depleted uranium tank shells to Ukraine. This is part of a £800 million aid package. Russia condemned the move to equip tanks with these controversial armour-piercing munitions.
Ministers have published the list of schools affected by the concrete crisis. There's 147 schools on that list, but that number is expected to swell as assessments continue. So far, 19 schools have had to delay the start of term. 4 of them have gone fully remote and 20 are running hybrid schooling.
Over the last 25 years, it's estimated that 500,000 people have died from overdoses related to pain-relieving drugs. They call this the opioid crisis. Now, many of these are prescribed short-term, so if you have a back injury, leg injury, something like that. But then people get hooked on them and they can't wean themselves off and they become addicted. Now, I am watching, and I've been talking about this week, a series on Netflix and called Painkiller, part fact, part fiction. But each program is a drama thing, and each episode, Ellie, starts with a parent saying, you know, some of this is fictionalized, most of it is not, and certainly what is not is the death of my daughter or my son or whatever, and they show a picture of that person, and it shows how people become addicted to these painkillers. And it is, there are two series. There's one on Disney Plus, I think, and there's one on Netflix, which is called Painkiller. Have a look.
You ever prosecute a company as big as Purdue Pharma?
All of human behavior is essentially comprised of two things. Run from pain, run toward pleasure. Pain, pleasure, pain, pleasure. If we place ourselves right there, between pain and pleasure, we will never have to worry about money again.
They have a drug and they talk about how to sell it on this drama, which happened in real life, and it's called Oxycontin. And I thought...
I've heard of that.
I thought it was fictionalised, but it's not. It was real, and they have Oxycontin toys, and they have Oxycontin seminars, and their salespeople are on big bonuses to flog this stuff with tragic results.
Well, there's a lot of money in it, isn't there? But it's not just a problem over the Atlantic. It's been described as an epidemic here in the UK too. Well, we're joined this morning by Ella McChrystal, a clinical psychotherapist. Good morning to you, Ella. Very good to see you this morning. I mean, this is a very, very serious issue, isn't it? Because opioids are very addictive.
They are, and the problem is that when people are in pain, they are desperate. One of the biggest issues with pain is it's life-altering in so many different ways. It's not just about reducing pain. When you take these painkillers, there's a sense of euphoria that you gain with it, and you're able to continue with your daily life. And that brings with it changes in your family life. If you're suffering with pain, your family life is affected. So it's addictive for lots of different reasons.
Yeah, it's so sad, Ella. I don't know if you're watching one of these series at the minute.
I've just started.
Yeah, and that's addictive as well. It's addictive watching it as to what goes on there. But Ella, the thing is, when you have pain, and I speak as someone who's had terrible back and leg pain for a couple of years now, you would eat horse poo if it worked, really. But the thing is, the difference is that horse poo isn't addictive, that Oxycontin was addictive. They knew it was addictive. They upped the dosage on it, and they just made billions and billions of pounds for the expense of the misery of so many people, which is sad to watch.
Well, let's not forget how really, I mean, this stuff is so hard to withdraw from, and it's dangerous. The problem is that as people, as you mentioned, there are so many deaths because of the respiratory depression that happens when people are withdrawing and when people are hooked on this stuff. And I believe there was over 2,000 lawsuits and allegations against that company, and they had to, they had to shut down as a result of it because it's so dangerous. But here in the UK, it's a massive issue as well. When we take opioids, the dopamine is released in the brain, the sense of euphoria. And like I say, and as you know, Eamonn, if you are in a lot of pain and you take something that allows you to continue with your life and improves your life, you're going to keep taking it. And if you keep upping the dosage for people, they're not going to be able to get off because of the complex changes that happen in the brain.
I can imagine it's not just the physical pain as well, it's the emotional pain of living with an injury, living with pain, living with sickness. If an opioid numbs that and makes you feel good, you can see just how addictive that would be as a holistic approach.
Of course. And, if you're getting a sense of euphoria because of a painkiller, you can't help that. And that tolerance, like I said at the beginning, the tolerance is going to be affected the more you take it. So what we end up with is people that haven't been given the right support in the first place because they obviously were not educated about pain. And I know that GPs feel like there's not enough training in their medical school, in the primary care, around pain management. So what happens is those GP appointments are highly emotionally charged. People are desperate. The GPs don't have enough time to deal with that in that moment. They prescribe the painkillers, but there isn't enough multidisciplinary care. I own a multidisciplinary health clinic where we have physios and osteos and gut health people and people like me, psychologists and psychotherapists. And we know the benefits of looking at this in a multidisciplinary way. Exercise, food is a massive one. Gut health is a massive one in terms of mood. And then, you know, being able to use behavioural therapy and trauma-focused therapies to deal with the problems of not only addiction, but like you say, the associated anxiety and depression.
You see, Ella, it's fascinating listening to you. I mean, I'm a classic case for you on this. And of all the people that I would go and see and the experts I would go and see, which would be most days, and I'm going today to get my back stretched and my neck stretched and various things. You, Ella, as a clinical psychotherapist, wouldn't even feature on my list of people to see. And if you did, you would be bottom of the list. So what am I missing out on? What is, for people like me who, you know, I've come through a lot and I've advanced in certain things like being able to sleep at night, you know, getting rid of pain there and whatever. Not through tablets, but through surgery. But what can you offer a person who suffers acute pain?
It does depend on the psychotherapist. I take a multi-model approach. So I look at things like pain management or depression management through lifestyle choices. I work in a trauma-informed way as well. So if there's a history of acute stress or trauma, we look at that first. We know that the way that stress works is cortisol is released, adrenaline is released, which is inflammatory for your system. So if you're in pain, we're looking at the mechanical issues within your body, but also associated inflammation. So breathing techniques, behavioural changes, looking at whether you're moving your body. And when you go to see a psychotherapist, they're often working as part of a wider team. So we can cross-refer and make sure that you get the right targeted help rather than just medication. Although that is sometimes needed, we need to take a multi-model approach.
Yeah.
Meditation, relaxation, like I say, diet is a massive one. And I know you spoke about that earlier, but
we did speak about it earlier, and I think this is amazing to hear about inflammation and how it and what causes inflammation and what inflammation does to your body. Ella, I would love to talk to you for longer today, but you've made us aware of the role of psychotherapists in all of this as well, and that there are other options besides pills.
Yes.
So maybe we'll come back and we'll talk about it again some other day. But Ella McChrystal, enjoy the rest of the series. It would be very entertaining if it wasn't so true. And that's Painkillers on Netflix. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Absolutely fascinating stuff, isn't it? A lot of it comes down to food, doesn't it?
Well, but you'd like to know what is the food that's causing it? Is it sugar?
Well, we need to
Is
go
it
back
sugar?
to Sandy.
Sugar's so sweet and yet so lovely and yet...
Maybe it's the oil. It's not good anyway. We're eating too much of it. Right, it's freezing cold in this studio, but it's hot, hot, hot outside. Let's get your weather forecast with Aidan McGibbon.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. It's Aidan McGibbon here from the Met Office with the GB News forecast. After a warm night, it's a hot and sunny one once again for most of us. Some clouds in the sky, however, as we start things off, especially these North Sea coast once again. Now, that cloud will burn back to the beaches through the morning, but there's also some cloud associated with thundery showers moving up north across western parts of the UK. These will be hit and miss through the day. Chance of frequent lightning where these occur and big drops of rainfall, but away from any showers, although there'll be some medium and high level cloud. For many, it's another warm, or hot one today, with temperatures of 32 Celsius in London, 28 Celsius for northern Scotland. But across Scotland and Northern Ireland, the chance into the evening of further thundery showers before they clear away. And that low cloud returns to North Sea beaches overnights and edges inland as the night goes on. But clear spells for many, and it's another warm one. 19, 20 Celsius in places, mid to high teens across northern parts of the UK, 20 or 21 Celsius in the south. As we begin Friday, some patchy cloud around, some low cloud around some of these southwestern shores, as well as the North Sea coast. But otherwise, for many, it's sunny skies, and we'll see a chance of temperatures ending up even higher, 32, and as we go into Saturday, 33 Celsius possible.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
This September, the GB News family is back together. From breakfast, right across the day, breaking the latest stories, and every evening. And don't forget the weekend. We've got the whole of the UK covered. Every week, we'll be hearing your views from up and down the country, with fun, lively and intelligent conversation with the biggest guests. This September, we'll meet Chris and John. Thank you for choosing GB News. We're proud to be Britain's news channel.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard. We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often they will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel. Welcome back. The time is 8:32. Still lots to come on today's programme.
Well, in half an hour's time, we're going to be speaking to the Science Secretary. I didn't even know we had a Science Secretary, but it's Michelle Donnellan on that.
Got lots of questions put to her. And straight after that, the chair of the Women and Equality Select Committee, Caroline Noakes. She sits down with GB News to talk about sexism in sport following the Spanish football's kiss scandal.
Have your say, a usual way. gbviews@gbnews.com, or you can tweet us no.
Send us a kiss. No, don't do that.
So there's no tweet anymore. There's an X thing. What was Elon Musk? You know, there's big rumours he's going to buy Man United. Yeah. That's why the Glazers have taken him off.
Oh, he'll make some changes there. You watch out.
Yeah. It'll be ex-Chester United.
You will. Yeah, that's probably what you will. No, it'll be ex-Chester. X. Yeah.
X. Run the sting. As Paul Coit, he's got the sport, and we're going to talk about the back pages and things that are happening. Sure. And the US Tennis Open is well underway.
It's really hot there, really hot at the moment. And, you know, we think it's warm here, but the conditions...
What temperatures? What are we talking?
We're talking about 35 to 37 degrees, and if you think of what it's like on court, I mean, it's unbelievable.
You can't play tennis in that, can you?
Oh, especially if you're going, 5 sets. I mean, this is really difficult. So as Medvedev beat Andrei Rublev, said conditions could cause a player to die. I don't know whether he's being a little over-dramatic about this.
I don't know. I'd die over 5 sets without whether the sun was out or not.
I thought you were a 3-setter man. I didn't realise you played 5 sets. Well, listen, because he's suffered breathing problems, it's just so incredibly hot at Flushing Meadows. And the heat wave, so 35 degrees on court. Humidity. See, I'm never really big with humidity. I don't really know what it means.
It means you're sweaty.
43 degrees. 43%, I should say.
I remember
humidity.
When I was young and I had vibrant hair, like, really nice young, and what's that called? The
mullet.
The mullet and all that sort of thing. Yeah. And I was filming in Bangkok.
Yeah.
Honestly, my hair was a mess.
Was it really?
It just went all frizzy. It was just, you just couldn't...
My hair was frizzy yesterday. You saw
it wasn't even humid here. Yes,
it felt humid.
Humid. I don't like, of all the sort of weather types you can get,
it's the worst.
I don't like humid.
Yeah. Because if you've got a mullet, that will curl up, won't it? The whole mullet look is not going to look, thank goodness.
No, it's not good.
See, now we're talking tennis, we're talking mullet. This is the time I need your picture with the mullet playing tennis. I don't have it with me today. I don't have it with me.
Yes, I'd worry if you had.
Have you seen the McEnroe documentary? We're
yes, on Sky.
Yeah, I mean, it's a terrific... Have you seen it, Ellie?
No, but I do know who you're talking about.
John McEnroe.
He's got COVID,
Oh, McEnroe has at the moment, has he really?
He couldn't go to the US Tennis Open. He couldn't commentate on it.
Is that right? I didn't know he had COVID. But one of his greatest moments was the 1981 US Open, and it was the thing that he'd always wanted to win. There's a game against Bjorn Borg at the time. Bjorn Borg never won the US Open. Never won the US Open. So the game, and this is all featured in the documentary, and... it was when McEnroe won it against Borg, and it turned out to be Borg's last game because Borg just walked away.
He did. He just walked away from the whole game.
That was it. And he wasn't even there for the press conference. He wasn't there for the prize giving, and that's it. He just walked away, got in a car, drove away, never played tennis again.
He was such a babe magnet, wasn't he?
Yeah. Because he had the mullet. That was what it was. That's probably...
He had everything except the US Open.
Never won the US Open. Mo Salah, should we mention Mo?
Yeah, because you were saying to me earlier that the Saudi transfer football window closes today.
Tonight, 10 o'clock tonight. Now, it's interesting to see whether Liverpool's resolve is going to be tested as far as Mo Salah's concerned.
Yeah, so they could take the money and run, basically.
Well, they could do. If you think he's 31 years old.
Yeah, I know.
Harry Kane, not 30 yet, and the money that Spurs sold into Bayern Munich. But Mo Salah, very obviously really important to Liverpool. They can't now make any deals off of the back of that because the transfer window here is closed. Yeah. So if they do so, I think there's going to be more bids that are going to come in for him because... an icon in the Middle East. He would be the jewel in the crown of the Saudi League if he went there. They're talking just a ridiculous amount of money there.
So we're not really talking about him going, we're talking about Liverpool because they've got him under contract.
That's right.
And you're saying, actually, think twice about this, guys, because this is going to be a really good deal for everybody involved.
Well, I heard rumours that Harry Kane, there was a very last-minute deal that came in from Saudi Arabia for him at around 250 million, which was then turned down. So I expect that there will be another offer for him later on today.
I've got to close your window now. Your window's
Really?
now
OK,
closed.
fine.
We've got to say thank you.
Much cheaper than Mo, though, isn't it, my window?
Sort of, I would imagine so.
OK.
Imagine so.
Well, UPVC window I have here.
Paul Coit there
Thanks,
with a roundup of what was happening sports-wise.
Now, the Rolling Stones have released their first new studio album for 18 years. So what's been keeping them so long? We'll have more on that in today's papers with Claire Muldoon and Freddie Gray. That's next.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamonn.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Dan Wootton. You can watch me live on GB News Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. And did you know that you can also watch and listen live on our website, gbnews.com? You'll always be up to date on the latest breaking news, as well as enjoying the best stories, opinions and shows. You can even join the debate under our live player as you're watching. So head straight to gbnews.com on TV, radio and online. GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Read all about it now. Here come the papers. We've got Freddie Gray and we've got Claire Muldoon. And we want to begin, first of all, with this jailbreak from Wandsworth prison, Claire.
Yeah, this terror suspect escaped jail under a lorry, a food truck, yesterday morning. He was lost for about an hour and the authorities within the prison then notified the police. They didn't want to waste police time, so they went to search areas in Wandsworth that they thought he could have gone to.
Well, the prison staff went outside the prison to areas in Wandsworth?
Yeah, no, not in Wandsworth itself, in the jail itself, OK?
Right.
So, but anyway, the police have now been alerted.
I wonder how they realised he was under the lorry.
That's the thing. Because if they didn't check under the lorry in the first instance...
Must have been CCTV.
Must have
I would
been.
have thought.
Well,
no one was clearly watching it.
No one was watching it, or no one was thinking. But here's a guy who he's up for trial in November.
Yeah.
He was initially sent to Belmarsh Prison, which is a Category A for violent prisoners, and he was then transferred from Belmarsh to Wandsworth in August of this year, which is a Category B, and given a job in the kitchen where he's got access to knives, etc., and doors opening for deliveries. You would have thought, this is slightly suspect. Why has he been given a declassification in terms of security for the prison? Why was he put there? And indeed, why on earth was he allowed to escape?
What was the name of the prison guard in Porridge? Mr. somebody.
Is it not Fletcher?
No, he was the prisoner. The guy who had the uniform and the stick.
Fulton Mackay, the actor. I don't know what his character was, though.
Who was he?
Mr. Mackay?
No, I think his name was... His real name was Mackay.
Yeah, Fulton Mackay.
Yes.
But I don't know what the character...
Yeah. But anyway, apparently I hear that the prisons are so understaffed, undermanned, underfunded, that, 10-year-olds sort of patrol...
Yeah, well, I've got a bugbear for that as well. Prisons used to be run by the government, but they're now offset to private partnerships like Securicor or... Group 4 security. And it's profit, again, over human beings and over crime and over the law, which is wrong on so many levels.
But it is like the plot from a film, Freddie, in terms of, this guy escaping from under a lorry. If we were watching a film, we would say, that wouldn't happen.
If we were watching a film, we probably want him to win.
I want to sound like I'm in a film now and say, I think he's gone. We've lost him.
You think he's out of the country?
I don't think he'll reappear.
Which would imply that he's had help. Because he wouldn't have had a licence, he wouldn't have had a passport, he wouldn't...
It sounds to me like
clothes,
there must have been some sort of... he must have had help, must have been some sort of operation. It's in a part of London where there could be a kind of network of people that could help him.
Of course he was given help.
It sounds pretty like he's a goner. But I hope that I'm proved wrong in the next 24 hours.
Do you think he's overseas, Freddie?
He could easily be overseas by now, yeah.
All of which indicates there's people who wanted him out of there, who did not want him to face trial. He did not want to face trial as well, but he's still awaiting that.
Well, he's awaiting trial for making fake bombs.
I know.
Well, there are
gender transitions. Let's talk about those also. This is also front page of the Telegraph as well. And Freddie, you want to talk about this? The PM may scrap the ban on letting pupils change their gender. Why would he want to do that?
Because it may be in breach of the Equality Act. And this is another story where the government says things that generate the sort of headlines they want, that look like they're getting tough on the sort of culture wars. And a lot of people like that. A lot of people are very worried about gender transitioning in children. A lot of parents are concerned about it. But it's a classic example of the government saying saying they're going to do something, and then they hit a legislative brick wall. This time in the form of the Equalities Act, which has transgenderism as a specialised characteristic, protected characteristic.
Protected.
And so they don't think they can get past it, and it looks like Rishi Sunak's going to drop it. That and quite a few Tory MPs are very nervous about this. They don't really like it. And so it's just another thing that dominated the headlines for a few weeks a couple of months ago and is now going to just vanish and nothing will happen.
Well, it also dominated the news in Scotland for the GRR reform bill, which, was cross-party across the board, was voted in, astonishingly, and yet it was lots of the electorate, lots of people on the ground do not want it and are not for it.
Do you think this is an issue that people really care about on the ground?
Oh, I think it is. I think, the whole gender, if you're gender critical, even in thought these days, you can be arrested.
Does that include, and I'm being serious here, if kids say, I want to be a cat or a bunny rabbit, is that included in that?
Well, it probably will be, because it's all the same sort of, I would say, nonsense.
That's, social transitioning is protected under the special protections for characteristics. Yeah.
And I don't think it's helpful even talking about it, because the more people that talk about it, the more kids are, and even parents.
But we've all lived lives, right? So anywhere in your life, have you known any of your children, cousins, relations, neighbours, anybody that's woken up one day and said, I'm not happy in this body, but sort of 6 months later they say, actually, I'm happy in this body, it's okay. I mean, what I'm trying to say is, I'm never aware of anybody ever talking about this or it being an issue or any kid saying,
"No,
Mummy, I want to be a pussycat today. I'm not a person."
I don't know anyone who wants to be a pussycat, but I have known a couple of families with children with it. And I think it is happening in schools now, and it's partly because we talk about it.
Yes.
It's become something that we are making people talk about gender dysphoria in children. That's massively on the increase, largely because we're encouraging children to think
they can be what they
sex
want.
isn't real and that gender is totally fluid.
Very fluid.
And so we are making it into a reality, if not a biological reality.
Well, Claire, let's have a look at The Sun, shall we? Page 11. A human embryo has been created in a lab for the first time.
Without a sperm, without an egg, a fertilised egg. This is absolutely...
What could possibly go wrong?
Well, exactly. You wonder. I mean, talk about Frankenstein. Mary Shelley had it on the nose, didn't she? All those years ago. This is from...
Well, except he was made out of dead body parts.
Well, this might be as well. It's stem cells.
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, so, and the way they talk about it here in The Sun, and I have to say, the graphic at the bottom says, warning, do not try this at home, as if you would get the stem cells and shake them up in a protein shaker and then grow it in a Petri dish. This is very concerning. You know, people would hail this as, you know, a moral law, a common law, but it goes against, in my view, the complete natural law, you know, of normality. This is not right.
So you can create a person,
well,
a
they're
human,
saying that
and you could create an army. You could create a religious following. You could
a cult.
Cult. Sorry, what cult?
Cult.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
What did you think I said?
Sorry, I just was
something else.
See you next Tuesday.
You could resurrect somebody. So somebody, if you could graft their stem cells and then you could build them again.
You could resurrect them.
Well, look, it's not. I mean, the child hasn't been.
This is a fair way off, I think, still.
Mm-hmm.
The child hasn't been born
Who would you bring back
yet, so
from the dead? I mean, outside loved ones and everything like that, I'd bring back Elvis.
Oh, that's a good one.
More than John Wayne? I thought you would have been John Wayne.
Well, I could bring John Wayne back too, but I mean, Elvis, I think Elvis is just supreme entertainer. Who would you like to see back, Freddie? Who would you?
Benjamin Disraeli, great 19th century Prime Minister. I think the Tory party could do with someone like that at the moment. That would be...
Ellie?
The late Queen, maybe. I saw a picture of her yesterday on her last official visit, because it was a year yesterday since she met Liz Truss in her last official engagement. She looked very cute.
You know who I'm going to say, don't you? Jesus Christ, because Kate Forbes said there's more chance of the SNP getting in than the reality of Jesus Christ coming back. And the way the world is going at the minute, I think we're all heading for the end. So if the Messiah were to come back, that would be fine by me.
Well, we're at the end for you two. Thank you both very much indeed for your entertainment all morning. Freddie Gray and Claire Muldoon. Thank you both very much.
Now, Prince Harry will today present the Well Child Award for Inspirational Children and deliver a speech as patron of the charity for seriously ill children.
Now, Harry has attended the awards on 11 previous occasions. He'll spend time with each winner. There's a pre-ceremony reception for them. And let's now go to former royal correspondent for The Sun. He's Charles Ray. Always a joy to speak to him. And very good seeing you, Charles, dressed for the weather, I see.
Yeah, I've got a T-shirt on under this. Once we finish here, this shirt's off and the T-shirt's back on.
Good man. Charles, Harry, you know, he faces a lot of criticism, whatever, but events such as this Well Child business, he does very well, though, doesn't he?
Absolutely, yeah, and you can't criticise him for the Well Child. You can't criticise him for the Invictus Games. You can't criticise him for his service, his military service on 2 tours of Afghanistan. I mean, he does some great things. There's no question about that. And I've got a great deal of respect and admiration. It's just when he turns into a moaning Minnie, that's when all goes wrong.
And it's such a significant time for him to be back at home, considering that tomorrow is the 1-year anniversary of the passing of the late Queen Elizabeth II. That is going to be a significant anniversary for the family, isn't it?
It is a significant anniversary for the family, and I'm told that the royal family themselves will be spending it in quiet reflection. They're in Balmoral, so there won't be any official events or anything at all. But it's going to be slightly tarnished because the focus is going to be on Harry. I mean, Harry is going to be in the country, and what's he going to do? I mean, assuming he's going to be staying somewhere, and he too will be spending it in quiet reflection, very much as he does for his late mother, which he had to do just over a week ago.
So we don't think there's going to be any family meetups?
Well, apart from the ones that are at Balmoral, but we're being told that there is no official gathering as such. It is going to be quiet reflection, thinking of the past, thinking of the late Queen, and it's one of those days in our calendar, very much like the death of Diana, that we're going to have to face, forevermore, and that's the way it is.
Charles, what's your reading of the way it is with relationships between Harry and the general family circle? We hear he's quite friendly with Sarah Ferguson's daughters, Prince Andrew's daughters. There's people where he would be welcome in their homes or in their company. But do you genuinely think that the damage, the frostiness between him and certain other senior royals exists?
I think it's as dead as a dodo, Eamonn, to be perfectly honest. I don't think there can ever be any sign of them getting back together again. Too much has happened under the bridge now. Too much water has flown under the bridge, and his constant criticism of the royal family does not help at all. I mean, even in the documentary on the Invictus Games, he had to have a slight pop at the royal family. There was no support network, but there was a support network. In 2017, he was actually in an interview praising his own brother, saying bless him, because he mentioned to him to help him out. And he had two private secretaries at that time who were both ex-soldiers and who could easily have helped him if he'd wanted.
And Charles, what do you make of Harry and Meghan this week at that Beyonce concert? We saw lots of videos of them looking very close, very cosy together. But that follows reports from the weeks prior where the two have been living very separate lives, apparently.
Well, yes, I think they've got different interests in the sense of she's going out for another side of her professional life. She's got to try and make some money somehow, and they're doing things separately, but it doesn't mean the marriage. I don't see any evidence at all that the marriage itself is in any trouble. The problem is that people have been saying this marriage is not going to last but long, even when they were walking up the aisle on the way out of the
okay, well, this interview can't last very long. Now we got to say goodbye to you, Charles. Always a pleasure when you're out in that garden. Remember, a bit of Beyonce. That's what you want to be listening to.
Well, as Charles takes off his shirt there, as he said, puts on his T-shirt and goes and enjoys the sunshine, let's see what the forecast is saying with Aidan McGibbon.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. It's Aidan McGibbon here from the Met Office with the GB News forecast. After a warm night, it's a hot and sunny one once again for most of us. Some clouds in the sky, however, as we start things off, especially these North Sea coasts once again. Now, that cloud will burn back to the beaches through the morning, but there's also some cloud associated with thundery showers moving up north across western parts of the UK. These will be hit and miss through the day. Chance of frequent lightning where these occur and big drops of rainfall, but away from any showers, although there'll be some medium and high-level cloud. For many, it's another warm or hot one today with temperatures of 32 Celsius in London, 28 Celsius for northern Scotland. But across Scotland and Northern Ireland, the chance into the evening of further thundery showers before they clear away. And that low cloud returns to North Sea beaches overnights and edges inland as the night goes on. But clear spells for many, and it's another warm one, 19, 20 Celsius in places, mid to high teens across northern parts of the UK, 20 or 21 Celsius in the south. As we begin Friday, some patchy cloud around, some low cloud around some of these southwestern shores, as well as the North Sea coast. But otherwise, for many, it's sunny skies, and we'll see a chance of temperatures ending up even higher, 32, and as we go into Saturday, 30.
This September, the GB News family is back together. From breakfast, right across the day, breaking the latest stories, and every evening. And don't forget the weekend. We've got the whole of the UK covered. Every week, we'll be hearing your views from up and down the country. with fun, lively and intelligent conversation with the biggest guests. This September, we'll meet Chris and John. Thank you for choosing GB News. We're proud to be Britain's news channel.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard. We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often they will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Nationwide manhunt is underway for a terror suspect who has escaped from Wandsworth prison. Hello there, very good morning to you. It's 9 o'clock on the dot, Thursday the 7th of September. Breakfast in GB News with Eamonn and Ellie and some breaking news.
Yes, the Conservative MP Chris Pincher has resigned. Recently, he had an appeal against a proposed 8-week suspension from the House of Commons for groping 2 men at a London club last year. It had been rejected. A Parliament watchdog had said his behaviour amounted to an abuse of powers. That breaking news this morning that MP, Chris Pincher, has resigned. We'll have more on that for you in the next few moments.
Meanwhile, the hunt is on for the terror suspect and former soldier Daniel Khalif, who escaped from Wandsworth prison yesterday. GB News Home and Security Editor Mark White is there.
Well, the Justice Secretary has held emergency talks with the governor of the prison and the prison service really to determine what went wrong and to ensure that the security here at Wandsworth prison is enhanced. As well as that, there is now a nationwide manhunt for this missing terror suspect.
New research shows 2 in 5 voters think childcare will be a key issue in the next general election. But what does this mean for the government? We'll be putting that to them shortly. Prince Harry is back in the UK to present an award for a charity as we look ahead to tomorrow's anniversary of the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. And we'll have your latest weather forecast with Aidan McGibbon.
It's another hot one today and tomorrow and Saturday. How high will the temperatures go, and will there be a thundery breakdown at any point? I'll have the full forecast coming up soon.
To our top story now, and the nationwide manhunt continues for former soldier suspected of terror offences who escaped from prison yesterday. Daniel Abed Khalif broke out of Her Majesty's Wandsworth prison in southwest London by clinging onto a food delivery van whilst wearing a chef's uniform. He was awaiting trial in relation to terrorism and Official Secrets Act offences whilst he was serving at an RAF base. Well, our Home and Security editor, Mark White, joins us live now from the scene of the escape. And Mark, we are over 24 hours on from this now, aren't we?
Yeah, and very busy here now at Wandsworth Prison as the day shift is arriving for their shift at this Category B prison. We have seen a number of vehicles coming and going, including a food delivery vehicle that I'm told is of the type that arrived here yesterday morning around about 7 o'clock and left just before 8 a.m. in the morning with this young terror suspect clinging to the underside of this vehicle. And taking a look, as we did, at this truck when it was parked outside the prison for a while before going in, you could see actually there was quite a lot of room underneath for anyone to be able to crawl under the vehicle, and it seems as well points that they could cling to. So an urgent review is underway. We know that the Justice Secretary held emergency phone call with the Governor here at the prison yesterday, along with senior prison service officials, to determine exactly what went wrong and also to get security up to standard here at the prison as a matter of urgency. The prison was locked down for a while yesterday, and I think judging by the time it's taken some of the vehicles to go into the prison this morning, those security checks, you would imagine they should have been happening yesterday as well, but certainly beefed up security here at the prison today.
Absolutely, you can understand that. I mean, let's talk about the prison, shall we? Wandsworth Prison, where you're standing outside now. Reports for years that it's been overcrowded and understaffed. How much do you think this could have played into the escape that we saw yesterday?
Yeah, well, it's been criticised only last year, criticised by the prison's watchdog for staffing levels, just a general cleanliness of the prison, and also some concerns over security. There have been a number of escapes. The last one, we think, here was in 2019. The most famous escape, of course, was back in 1965 when the great train robber Ronnie Biggs and a few others managed to scale the wall and disappear. He disappeared for decades before finally handing himself in and coming back to the UK to complete the rest of his prison term. But it's certainly no stranger to prison escapes over the years here at Wandsworth, and there are questions being asked as to why a terror suspect awaiting trial was held here and not at one of the higher category prisons such as Belmarsh, where the vast majority of terror prisoners do go to.
And our understanding is that he was at Belmarsh, but then transferred to Wandsworth, which is, I'm sure, going to raise many eyebrows. There'll be many questions about that. And indeed, the fact that he had access to this kitchen as a terror suspect, where there will be knives and also doors opening to accept deliveries. It's quite astonishing, really, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, I think in terms of that process of determining where he should be housed as he awaits his trial as a remand prisoner, that will certainly be reviewed. It's all being reviewed as a matter of urgency because, as I say, there are those, I think, legitimate questions as to whether he should have actually been kept in a higher security prison until his sentence, and thereafter a determination as to where where he should be housed if indeed he is convicted eventually at trial. And yeah, with regard to the kitchens, well, if you're a remand prisoner, you don't have to do a job of work within the prison. It is voluntary, but quite a lot of remand prisoners do volunteer for jobs around the prison, including work in the kitchens, just because of the boredom factor inside, and plus they get an extra little bit of pocket money for doing that. So it wouldn't be out of the ordinary. In fact, these kitchens are staffed predominantly by prisoners, so not unusual that he would be working in a kitchen. But again, given that he is facing terror charges, was that the most appropriate place to house that individual in a kitchen? Again, that will all be part of the review going forward.
So many questions. Mark White, thank you so much for that comprehensive analysis there at Wandsworth Prison this morning. Well, let's cross now to the Science Secretary, Michelle Donlan. Good morning to you, Ms Donlan. Very good to see you this morning. Just wanted to get your reaction to that breaking news that the Deputy Chief Whip, Chris Pincher, former, I should say now, Deputy Chief Whip, Chris Pincher, has resigned. GB News can reveal that he has written to Chancellor Jeremy Hunt, formally resigning as MP for Tamworth. What's your reaction to that news this morning?
Oh, obviously, like you, I'm only just hearing it, but we, of course, want to ensure that every constituent across the country gets the very best service from their members of Parliament. This has been a big distraction in terms of British politics, this story, throughout the whole period, hasn't it? I'm sure we can all agree on that. And the things that took place in regards to this individual were certainly not acceptable by any member of Parliament, and I don't condone them whatsoever.
Does the Conservative Party have a problem with sexual misconduct?
Absolutely not. This is not a party political issue, and nor should it be an issue in any workplace. You wouldn't expect, if you worked in any place, to experience these types of things, and that's important that we have a process in place to deal with them, and we also set the tone for the rest of society and lead by example. But my party certainly does not have a problem, and these are isolated but very, very awful incidents that we should not ever expect to take place in the mother of parliaments.
We need to ask you about Daniel Khalif, the terror suspect who has escaped jail under a lorry. It's the plot of a film, it would sound like, but unfortunately it is real life. Details coming out that he was initially held at Belmarsh Prison, which is the most secure, considered to be the most secure in the country. He was transferred to Wandsworth, which is notoriously over capacity and understaffed. Why did that happen?
Well, there needs to be two things need to happen, which are taking place. Firstly, the top priority is finding this individual and putting him back into prison. The second is an investigation into exactly what went on here. Why was this ever even a possibility, let alone enabling him to escape? And I know that the Justice Secretary, who I spoke to about this yesterday, was hot on this and made sure that we had an investigation straight away that was launched, and we'll get some of these answers. We all want these answers to these very big questions.
Sure.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
I said, are our prisons secure? Because if you can have terror suspects being moved to Category B prisons from Category A prisons, being allowed to work in a kitchen with knives, where doors are opening, where they're receiving deliveries, people will be asking this morning, are our prisons secure?
So I think you raised some good questions about why was he allowed to work in the kitchen. All of these different things need to be looked at in that investigation. I don't want to preempt that. We need those facts. We need the mitigations put in place to ensure this never happens again. The Justice Secretary has been very clear on that. What I want to reassure the public on is this is an isolated incident. It is very, very rare for prisoners to escape. That's not to say it's okay. It is absolutely not okay. But I do want to reassure people that this is an isolated incident. In terms of the prison estate itself, it's undergoing at the moment a programme to expand capacity and to upgrade it. We're also increasing the number of prison officers on the ground in these prisons. We've increased it by 20% in the last year. So we are tackling some of these issues that you've just raised.
Secretary of State, we can now bring you on to your brief, which is science, which will be very, very interesting. And we were running this news story today that the UK is to return to the European Union's Horizon Research Programme. I'd love you to outline to us what that exactly means. It's like we've paid a membership to be part of a club, it appears. What does this club do?
Yeah, good question, Eamonn. So this is basically the largest research collaboration programme in the entire world. It's not just EU member states that are members, it's countries like Israel and New Zealand and now us. We used to be members when we were part of the EU. We've been trying to associate. It was in that TCA a few years ago. Now we've managed to get a really good deal. And a good deal not just for scientists and researchers, but also the taxpayer. What it will enable our scientific community and businesses to do is access fantastic world-class facilities and also work with some of the brightest and best across the globe to tackle things like drug discovery, addressing cures for cancer, working on climate change, some of the biggest issues that face us today. In fact, a staggering figure is that 2/3 of the Horizon research projects actually result in groundbreaking discoveries. Now that's staggering. That's certainly something we want to be part of. It's something that's going to then produce more jobs here in the UK as well. It's been welcomed by businesses like Rolls-Royce and small businesses as well. And fundamentally what's important is the deal we've got is not just the deal that was originally on offer. We've managed to negotiate, working with the EU, a deal that will actually deliver for the taxpayer. So for instance, we're not paying for the years that we weren't members. Also, we have a clawback mechanism. So if there was a scenario where we weren't getting as much out of it as we were putting in, that would be automatically triggered. And this also provides certainty to our researchers and our scientists and our businesses to allow them to flourish and to allow the business community to grow and to encourage more investment here in the UK.
That's all great news, it really is. And you know, Michelle, there's so much of the work and job of a politician to be on the defensive, to be on the back foot, to be being attacked about something. But I can sense from you, because you're like me on this one, science excites me. It must be a fantastic brief. I was saying science excites me. It obviously excites you as well, to be able to talk about these things, because this benefits everybody, no matter what way you vote, no matter what your politics are. This is for the greater good of everyone.
Absolutely it is. It's how we tackle those big challenges. It's how we advance society. It's how we enable people to live happier, healthier, longer lives. In my brief, I'm lucky enough to look after the science community at the forefront of that agenda, to work on AI. We have the world's first ever AI Safety Summit hosted here in the UK at the beginning of November. And this is all part and parcel of our mission to be a science and technology superpower by 2030, which, as you say, Eamonn, will be to everybody's benefit.
Okay. And Michelle Donovan, thank you very much indeed. Her brief is science. She's the Secretary of State for Science, Innovation and Technology, all of which I think is I think innovation is quite an exciting word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it really is.
So we've got Norman Baker with us today, who's a former politician. Of course, he's an author and he's a pundit in all things political as well. But innovation, I mean, you like history as well. I mean, you like older music, you like, you know, the train lines that we've got, but I'm sure you're not against. I'm sure you look at your train lines, the train system, and think how it could benefit from innovation.
Of course. Well, I mean, on history, just like you say, that we have to understand where we've come from in order to know where we're going, because you can learn lessons from the past, which are important for the future. That applies to innovation as much as anything else. But I'm very pleased that we've rejoined Horizon. It's absolutely the right decision to do that, and it's essential for the scientific and university community in this country. I don't want to sound churlish, but it's a pity we ever left it in the first place. We've had a couple of years now out of it, and that will have been an unwelcome hiatus. But hey, let's look forward. We're back in there now, and it's important that we use that as a springboard for innovation, but also to help the British economy.
Yeah. Now, amongst the things you want to comment on today is this situation that we have with Birmingham City Council, second biggest city in the UK, and the local authority, which is very big. I think it's the biggest.
It's the biggest in Europe.
Yeah. I mean, too big?
It's, well, not to say too big, it's the biggest in Europe, and it's one of 20 councils at risk of bankruptcy. And what we've seen over the last 13 years in particular, but certainly the last 8 years, has been that local authorities have borne the brunt of government cuts because it's more difficult to pick up on cuts at local level and blame the government centrally for that than it is to blame central government for direct cuts, like, for example, the problems we got this morning at Wandsworth. And we've seen tremendous pressures on local councils, adult social care, for example, taking a huge part of the budget, housing problems and so on, housing all sorts of people coming, including people from abroad. And councils haven't got enough money. And we've got 20 councils now, including Labour and Tory ones, Kent County Council, for example, which are at risk of bankruptcy. And we have to ask ourselves, how long can this go on? Because councils deliver essential services on planning, on leisure, on housing and so on. They can't deliver these services.
Norman, was the Birmingham thing, well, you could say it was off their own making, of course, but was this bankruptcy avoidable because they were faced with a £760 million bill through pay equality, which dates back over a number of years. They were sunk when that torpedo hit.
Well, I think Glasgow had a similar issue, as a matter of fact. But yes, I'm not going to say Birmingham's been well run over the years. It hasn't been well run in my judgment, and therefore they brought some of it upon themselves. But to get a judgment that says you suddenly have got to find £760 million, I mean, that's very challenging for any council under any control in any part of the country. But I think this goes to a wider point about how well Britain's placed for the future. When we got Wandsworth, which is overcrowded, crumbling and vermin infested. We just heard that a moment ago. We got possibility of getting GP appointments these days. We got massive NHS waiting lists. We got sewage in our rivers and on our coastlines. We got not enough police on our streets. You know, the public realm in this country is crumbling, and you know, Britain is falling to bits in some respects.
But isn't part of the problem is what is the responsibility of central government and what is the responsibility of local government, and what is fair to ask constituents and these authorities to pay for? Norman, I'd love to get your answer on that. We've got to go and take a break, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Please don't go away.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamonn.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Dan Wootton. You can watch me live on GB News Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. And did you know that you can also watch and listen live on our website, gbnews.com? You'll always be up to date on the latest breaking news, as well as enjoying the best stories, opinions and shows. You can even join the debate under our live player as you're watching. So head straight to gbnews.com on TV, radio and online. GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "No, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the people's channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
Is the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Just before we went to the break, I was having a conversation with Norman Baker about what should be the responsibility of central government and what should be the responsibility of local authority when it comes to paying the bills.
We've got far more centralised control in this country than most countries have. Most European countries have, certainly. And local councils are much more constricted by legislation than councils are elsewhere in Europe. In addition to that, councils are restricted in what they can do with their council tax. The consequence of all that straitjacket is that councils don't have enough money, they're not able legally to raise it, and they're not able to fund their services. So the public realm locally is looking pretty shabby. You and I were talking off air, Eamonn, about the amount of rubbish around, the amount of weeds on our streets and so on. You wouldn't have seen that 20 years ago.
No. I tell you what, I don't know if it's the Highways Authority, I don't know if it's local authorities, whatever, but you go particularly on motorways, the amount of debris on motorways, I think, I put it to you, is dangerous, absolutely dangerous. In the outer lane and the inner lane, no one bothers plucking weeds or whatever. They've given up that with pavements and things like that. Does that matter? Does that matter?
It does matter, because it just diminishes society, I think. It makes us all feel a bit grubby. Society's a bit grubby. You know, I used to remember I went from Canada to the US by rail. I remember doing that. And all the public realm in Canada was pristine. All the fences were painted. And as soon as you got across the border to the US, it was all a mess. Well, we're getting to that stage in this country where the public realm is, no one wants to own it. Nobody feels guilty for dropping rubbish anymore or that sort of thing.
I remember 30 years ago being in America, filming in America and looking at this, you know, biggest country in the world type thing, richest country in the world, and thinking their roads are a disgrace.
Yes.
I used to think in Britain, whether it's Northern Ireland or where else you are in Britain, the roads are fantastic. Can't say that now.
No, what you can say now about the roads is a pothole has appeared, the local council is looking into it.
Norman Baker, thank you very much indeed. Ellie Costello, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, thanks for having me.
And viewers and listeners, thank you for tuning in. Up next, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Bev.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. It's Aidan McGibbon here from the Met Office with the GB News forecast. After a warm night, it's a hot and sunny one once again for most of us. Some clouds in the sky, however, as we start things off, especially these North Sea coasts once again. Now, that cloud will burn back to the beaches through the morning, but there's also some cloud associated with thundery showers moving up north across western parts of the UK. These will be hit and miss through the day. Chance of frequent lightning where these occur and big drops of rainfall, but away from any showers, although there'll be some medium and high level cloud. For many, it's another warm or hot one today with temperatures of 32 Celsius in London, 28 Celsius for northern Scotland. But across Scotland and Northern Ireland, the chance into the evening of further thundery showers before they clear away. And that low cloud returns to North Sea beaches overnights and edges inland as the night goes on. But clear spells for many, and it's another warm one, 19, 20 Celsius in places, mid to high teens across northern parts of the UK, 20 or 21 Celsius